The idiot Lord marries 5 beautiful goddesses. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 375, The situation worsens. Johnson got up soon after fainting. He didn't let drowsiness get the better of him and tried to get up. At first he thought it was all a dream as his memory was still fuzzy, but he soon felt relieved and realized that he had managed to get out alive, and thanks to some miraculous effect, all his wounds had healed and he felt more energetic than before. He stretched and cracked his back as he could feel slight aches and pains due to lying on the ground. Although his wounds had been healed, he didn't exert himself too much for fear of falling ill again. He looked around and, remembering the situation, he hurriedly looked at the condition of the others. On the spur of the moment, he forgot about the boys who were with him. It was already night, and at last when he saw the soldiers safe and sound, he sighed in relief. They have just fainted and are now sleeping soundly. He examined their condition and they were all in good shape. Johnson looked around and found Ian staring at him with a worried expression. "Sir, are you all right now?" Ian asked. Johnson looked at Ian's face and nodded. Weren't they sent to the 4th line of defense? How could they have come here instead of going to other lines to help? He had forgotten about this matter due to the situation, but now that his mind was clear, he couldn't let go of the thought that they had abandoned the defense lines and escaped here. Alex and his troops should have been at the 4th line of defense. Since other lines had been attacked, he should have appeared there. He had heard that the situation at the border was quite bad, and knowing Alex, he expected him to be there to help them. Johnson asked Ian about all the details. "When we heard about the Arkham Kingdom's invasion, we headed straight for the 2nd line of defense and successfully defended it from the enemies." "Then why are you here now?" Johnson asked with a confused expression. "Only my lord can answer that question." He had other ideas about it and deemed it a waste of resources to defend the 2nd defense lines now. Although he was curious, he was at least able to shake off his worry after hearing about Alex's move. "I expected nothing less from him," Johnson said with a sincere smile. The surprise attack might have caught everyone by surprise, which might interfere with their decision-making process. But even so, Alex was able to make the best decision and produce the best result, as well as avoid at least one of the worst possible scenarios. And he could feel the reverence in Ian's eyes and could imagine how great he was when he marched alone into the battlefield, slaughtering the enemies. After seeing Alex's preparation, Johnson could already sense that Alex was preparing for war, and now that someone like him was here, it added new life to the Western Front for now. Johnson exchanged a few greetings and walked towards the building where Alex was. Alex greeted him and checked his condition. He confirmed that there were no major problems and asked, "Can you tell me what happened here?" "Yes, we were attacked by Arkham soldiers 3 hours ago. We were preparing to deploy 1,000 soldiers to the 5th line of defense, but the Arkham soldiers surrounded us and suddenly attacked us. We quickly summoned our men and Commander Ruth took command, but we couldn't do anything due to the overwhelming force of the enemy." 3 hours. That was how long it took for Alex to get here. Johnson had been unconscious for half an hour. That means they had been invading the place for quite some time already. "Sir Johnson, since you are the most experienced man here, I wanted you to take a look at the map and tell me why they would attack the reserve unit when they have already taken the defense line." Johnson nodded and looked at the map of the Western Front. The more he looked at it, the more confused he became. After thinking about it for a long time, he found that attacking there was pointless unless they wanted to create a distraction. Johnson's eyes widened when he noticed a yellow mark on the map. It can't be. Maybe they expected some to flee or retreat upon seeing the situation of the defense line and return to the rear. They wanted to destroy the warp gate, so they wanted to delay it and sent another troop to attack here. If a Kinley battalion came here, they would run to offer help first and forget to look at the warp gate. That was too shocking. When Alex came here, he had been thinking about the attack. He had already grasped the gist of their plan, but the thing about the warp gate was totally out of his mind because he hadn't imagined that enemy forces had infiltrated this land since a long time ago. Alex, along with Commander Ruth, had done some security checks and changed the man, but he couldn't point out the spies or anything since he hadn't been at all the defense lines. Furthermore, the deployment of a considerable number of troops even before Alex appeared here, and since they had been hiding in the vast land, went unnoticed by Alex. Secondly, he hadn't imagined that Shen would pull such a trick and exchange the communication. If he had relayed the news to the center, although they wouldn't send reinforcements, they would at least send forces to secure the gate. It seems like they've been preparing this for too long. They've taken into account all possibilities to make this war a success, Alex said in a rough voice that made Johnson sigh deeply. If he hadn't been present, only God knows what would have happened. The Western Front would have already collapsed. Wait, since it's come to this, then the old man should have already known. Then why the hell is he still sitting still, Elder? If you don't act, your land will be snatched away from you. Or have you just pushed all the responsibilities onto me after sending me here? Damn it. You should have at least made me a general. Alex didn't know what his so-called father emperor was thinking, but he understood one thing: he had relied on himself to resolve this. Perhaps that old man also had a hand in delaying the reinforcements because he had already expected this war, but he stood still like a stone. Alex's headache seemed to get worse with each passing second. Shouldn't we help the rear forces in this case? We should march towards them right now. It's useless, Alex muttered, shooting himself in the head. You said you were attacked 3 hours ago. It hadn't even been an hour since we arrived. That's enough time for them to fall. When the defensive line couldn't persist for more than an hour, what could you expect from the others? You mean, yes, the warp gate has already been taken or is in the process of being taken. It would take us 30 minutes to get there, and if the warp gates are taken and Arkham sends reinforcements, we're going to die? Despite the tense situation, Alex was in no hurry. There was no need to run around like a headless chicken and get defeated. I think we should move on to the next plan, Alex muttered and threw a knife at the map, which landed in a forest covering a rocky land. The Rocky Mountains of Terror of Renvier. Chapter 376, Preparing for What's Coming. The 3rd and 5th defenses were the only ones that persisted. The 4th defense line was taken fairly easily. After Alex and the nobles left, it was emptied. Of the soldiers still there, many fled while others surrendered without resistance. The 5th defense managed to repel the enemies. The wave consisted of only a few thousand soldiers, so they were able to hold out easily. And since no attack had been made on the 3rd defense line, everything was still as good as before. After Alex escaped, a scout from the Arkham side was sent to the 2nd defense line, and after noticing the absence of Kinley's soldiers, the 1st defense group captured and secured the perimeter fairly easily. Movements could be seen in all the forts on the 5th defense line. Take care of the rations. Prepare the weapons and get them ready early. Repair the walls as soon as possible. Our lives are at stake. Hurry up. The second wave might be right around the corner, Baron Cohen roared as he looked around. Many cracks had formed on the wall and it looked like it was going to collapse. The gates were in good shape, though they still needed some repairs. It was a good thing that we were attacked by only 6,000 Arkham soldiers who fled quickly. They were able to clean up the mess and held on. Still, there was no relief. He contacted the general, who seemed to be talking in a roundabout way, and could infer that the bastard was reluctant to send reinforcements. Baron Cohen had never liked that man, and at that moment he wanted to kill that stupid person. Shen was a muscular fool and was widely known as the second Prince Gigolo. As he sighed, a soldier walked up to him. "Commander, we're receiving a call from the Western Garrison." "Take it," Baron Cohen muttered as he walked towards the command center. He saw 2 people on the communication channel. "Baron Cohen and Count Pat, I am Alex von Leonhardt, a member of the reserve unit and acting commander of this place." Alex had called the commander of the 3rd and 5th defense lines at once. Both of them looked at Alex with a surprised expression. While Cohen was oblivious to what was happening on other lines, Pat was already aware of the recent matters and straightened his demeanor. "Why are you contacting me? Have other defenses already left?" Cohen asked with a frown. Alex gave them a brief summary and then spoke. "The Arkham realm seems to have taken control of the warp gate at the rear of the Western Front. We have been cut off, and if we stay here, death awaits us. We must abandon the fort and take refuge in the Terror of Renvier and try to stop them from reaching the realms." Count Pat and Baron Cohen jumped up from their seats. Cohen thought that they had barely blocked the first wave's attack, while other lines of defense had already fallen, and even the warp gate had been taken. Meanwhile, the 3rd line hasn't even been attacked so far. There's no way the rear guard has fallen. Are you saying that Arkham soldiers have bypassed us and taken control of the warp gate? It's ridiculous, Count Pat said in a tone of denial. What if this had happened? Are they telling us to abandon our position and seek shelter somewhere else? Baron Cohen said in disbelief. Alex coldly looked at their confused expressions and said, Do you think defending the lines has any value in this situation when you've already passed and secured the warp gate? You could just bring troops there and march towards the Western territories. You've never taken the defensive line into consideration. You haven't used your full power and have only tried to distract us by focusing on the objectives. Count Pat and Baron Cohen, think rationally for a bit. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. Both of you were speechless upon hearing Alex's words and began to think carefully. Although Arkham attacked you first, you would quickly retreat if the battle turned out to be disadvantageous. We're escaping towards the Rocky Mountain of Renvier for shelter. If you stay there, you'll be isolated and defeated by the enemy's forced attacks from both sides. I plan to destroy the path to the Western Territory, leaving you with no choice but to walk through Renvier. Even if it's difficult, we still have a way to stay there and cross the mountains. Alex's persuasion didn't work. Both of them thought that this was just a guess without any solid proof. They couldn't quite believe it. I need proof first. Also, your plan doesn't make any sense. You wanted to use guerrilla warfare in the vast desert, but can you handle that? Cohen snorted. Contact me again if you have any news, Baron Cohen muttered and cut off the call. Count Pat didn't cut through the wall and remained silent for a moment. From the information, Alex knew that Count Pat remained silent most of the time and didn't say a word if it wasn't necessary. He may look like a fool, but he had good judgment. Alex had some hope in him, but it was small. Count Pat rubbed his chin and said, I don't know if what you said is true or false, but when we're on the battlefield, we have to make certain assumptions and guesses. I have 18,000 soldiers stationed here and I am willing to send 5,000 soldiers and put them under your command, but forgive me. I cannot leave my post without a proper order. And you know why? If we leave the post and by any chance Arkham loses, General Shen will spare no effort to get rid of us. It's fine for me to die, but I don't want my family to bear the label of traitor and be looked down upon. I don't have the guts of a young man like you, so I advise you to be careful. Alex, with heartfelt advice and a parting warning, Count Pat cut the call. Alex sighed and looked at Raya for a moment and spoke with a self-deprecating smile. It seems the proverb was true. Good people don't live long. We should start packing quickly. We should leave before Arkham's troops appear through the warp gate. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 377, The Rising Sun of Arkham Entrance. Halbert was the captain of the paratrooper squad that had infiltrated the western borders. He was in charge of the 2,500 troops who were ordered to take the warp gate or destroy it no matter the cost. 7 months ago when he received the proposal he thought the prince had gone mad, but he finally agreed to do the job after his sincere explanation. It seems there was no other way for them. The Arkham Empire had no strength to withstand the current situation. Crops were affected by the miasma, farmlands were destroyed by the demons. The treasury was left empty. There were many internal conflicts that arose out of nowhere, and some of them seemed to have sold out to the demons. The only thing that could help them was the appearance of a powerhouse, but warriors above the mythical rank cannot appear and participate in the battle, so they can only seek outside help, which has been rejected, and they were ignored. So the only way to do things now was to force the other party to take action, or give them some benefit. By conquering and plundering the Western Front, they would force Kinley to sign a treaty or form a partnership with the Herald Kingdom to help them avoid trouble. Moreover, it didn't take long for them to be convinced due to the Second Prince's detailed and in-depth planning that caught them by surprise. Many spies were infiltrated and people who crossed the border and hid here were gradually selected. Halbert and others arrived at the heavily guarded warp gate. They waited for the night and chaos on the battlefield, and as soon as the opportunity came, they bared their fangs. Pooh! Quack! The soldiers guarding the place were killed one by one. There was a lot of force stationed here and their forces were enough to take down the place, but they have already prepared some other measures to take the place quickly. 2,500 soldiers arrived from all sides and began attacking. A spy had already been implanted at the place, and accompanying him Halbert along with several others snuck inside while everyone was focused on the chaos outside. The squad that followed the mole's instructions snuck in quite easily through the secret path. They took care of the enemies and headed straight for the warp gate. Screams echoed and spread throughout the place, but the Arkham soldiers turned a blind eye and attacked with full force. The screams and roars from outside covered the noises caused by Halbert's squad. They tried to do their job as quietly as possible, but still, some voices managed to escape, which were masked by the chaos outside. As soon as they reached the warp gate, the first thing they did was carve a self-detonation magic spell and tied a detonation device to the warp gate. If they were discovered now, they would surely be killed by the enemies, but before that, they would make sure to blow up the entire place so that Kinley couldn't get any reinforcements through the warp gate. The mage and technician who arrived started working on the gates. They changed the coordinates and linked to the one in Arkham. "Hey, they're messing with the warp gates, to stop them," one of the soldiers shouted and warned the others. They couldn't take their eyes off Kinley for long. Kinley's soldiers noticed something was wrong during the attack and ran towards the warp gate, only to find it surrounded by troops from the opposite side. They charged at them, but Halbert and others tried to hold them off. They swarmed and surrounded the thieves. "Die! Don't let them through," Halbert shouted and fought back fiercely. Cry, 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 cry. Halbert's troops began to look outnumbered and soon fell at a disadvantage. "Captain, it seems we won't be able to hold out much longer. Let's destroy the gate," the soldiers shouted as they saw their comrades dying one by one. "Not yet." Halbert gritted his teeth and forced himself forward. His body had been bruised with countless wounds, but he still didn't give up. He knew that they were very close to achieving their goals. If they die now, all the people's hard work and sacrifices will be useless. Destroying the warp gate was the only secondary option when they couldn't win. He needs to hold on. For his lord and his country, he needs to persevere through his ordeal. Even if he were to become a martyr, his name would go down in history. His fierce burning eyes terrified the Kinley soldiers. Halbert's armor was already torn, so deep guts appeared in his eyes from his suffering. Halbert raised the morale of the remaining forces on his side, who also fought fiercely. Hiss. At that moment a gentle wind blew and they finally succeeded. A strong pressure emerged from the portal and a horde of people rushed out of the portal and began to attack the Kinley soldiers. Halbert was already severely injured and was drenched in blood and fell to the ground feeling like he was short of breath. The door began to glow brightly, and as the bright light subsided, Noah's Ark appeared in the vision. With a single step, he was now on the land of Kinley. Seeing his brown hair fluttering, everyone around him knelt down. "We salute the second son." Their voices were filled with respect and reverence. All of them had been in a strange land for 6 months, and all of them had gone with the idea of sacrificing their lives for Arkham to survive. They had sworn that no matter how difficult it was, they were going to accomplish the objectives they had been ordered to, and finally, they had finished their task. "Paratroopers, you may rest now. Leave everything else to us," Noah said with a gentle smile. His voice had a charm that made everyone believe that they had already won the war. Some of them were already shedding tears of joy at the sight of the second prince, who was rightly called the rising son of Arkham. Noah no longer smiled and marched towards the fallen men. "Is everything going according to plan?" Most of the defense line had fallen. "We've already taken it easily. The reinforcements from the opposite side hadn't arrived. With the other 2 lines down, we can occupy the entire front and use it to our strategic advantage." Noah had made sure to wage war as quickly as possible and cut off all reinforcement routes. With the short routes being occupied, Kinley will be forced to take the long route. It was time for them to quickly start working towards their new objective. Since Kinley couldn't send anyone out anytime soon, it was time for them to move forward with their plan. "Opal." "Yes, Your Highness, start connecting all the fronts. I'll give you a battalion to oversee the defense lines. Gather up with our troops and start preparing the fort for defenses. This can go on for a long time, so there's no need to rush. Even if we don't manage to plunder the kingdom's lands, we can hold the defensive line as the last straw and advance our borders. Hell, start securing the road to the Western Territory. We will be on our way soon." Chapter 378, The Rising Sun of Arkham Entrance. The next day, as soon as the sun rose in the sky, Alex's men packed their luggage and started moving towards Ranvier's Terror, which was 50 kilometers away from the Western Garrison headquarters. Before moving, Alex took all the rations from the second defense line and the Western Garrison headquarters. He renewed the supply of weapons, water, and necessities, and even took the flare from the warehouse. Alex even talked to Count Pat, and after some discussion, he agreed to send most of the rations with his men. Count Pat knew that the chances of defending the wall were close to 0, and the only thing he could do was to stay in line so that the others would have enough time to do their job without being noticed. After running for a long time, The rocky and barren ground started to disappear and bushes and thickets started to appear. Many of the reserve units had trained in the initial areas and were quite aware of the terrain, but for the nobles who hadn't moved from the fort, it was the beginning of the nightmare. It was a brutal struggle for them to even walk properly through the dense forest laden with trees, vines, and climbing plants that prevented the sun's rays from reaching them. The humid condition made it unbearable, and they were all drenched in sweat due to the full clothing. And it wasn't even the beginning, as the rugged mountains posed even more difficulties for them to move, as they couldn't even get a proper foothold. The only thing that kept them moving was their desire to survive the crisis. While the nobles along with others were groaning and feeling like they were marching through hell, Alex had led some of his men towards the road that connected the western territory. He looked at the earth and sent out the messengers first, and as soon as his sight disappeared, Alex flew into the sky looking down at the ground with a cold expression. His men had already retreated to a safe distance, after which Alex began his favorite process. He raised his hand. The mana around him spun and spun as if a strong storm appeared out of nowhere. Many magic circles shone in the air, illuminating the sky. The veins on his head bulged as he exerted a great amount of strength, both physically and mentally. "Let's turn it all into trash," Alex roared. What happened next was a spectacular scene that Alex's men were able to witness, and it left their scalps numb with fear. The magic circles spun vigorously and hundreds of fiery masses appeared that accelerated towards the ground and crashed into the floor, taking advantage of a great momentum. Boo! Red flames manifested and flew everywhere, spreading out like waves, but everyone who was able to witness the scene was horrified as their vision turned white as the ground collapsed. Rumble. The sky seemed to split in two as it groaned from the power of the terrifying explosion, and everyone within a 20-kilometer radius felt their ears ringing and their heads go blank. Soon a massive flame arose that seemed to unite heaven and earth, which naturally alerted the Arkham soldier, who was 50 kilometers away from the location, and rushed towards the spot. Rumble. 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 The ground began to slowly shake as a massive Arkham soldiers appeared, waving their flags proudly. They charged forward, trampling the corpses of the enemies as they went. The direction they were approaching now was the remaining 3rd and 5th defense lines. At the 5th defense line, Baron Cohen tried to connect with the rear but was unable to receive the call. He also tried to call General Shen in the center for help but was unfortunately unsuccessful. Still no response. The soldier shook his head. "Damn it!" Baron Cohen roared in anger and picked up the monocle communication stone and threw it towards the wall in indignation. It crashed into the wall and shattered into several pieces. They have already dealt with a mana blocker, so the call should be connected, but with no connection being obtained, the men have been blocked from the other side. Naturally, he had heard about Shen changing the communication line, but even so, he had a sliver of hope left, but his hope was shattered. It seemed like the other side had abandoned them. The other officials around him were already stiff and anxious after hearing Alex's report. They had tried to search for the personnel stationed in the rear near the warp gate repeatedly, but there was no response. The fact that the warp gate had been taken was already a big problem in itself, but what he feared most was the general's lack of response. In a war like this, a general should be present and actively participating in the discussions, but here was his general, who had been hiding in the capital. Baron Cohen might be arrogant and selfish, but he was no fool. A part of him wanted to accept Alex's proposal, but that was not possible with the superior's permission. Even if they won the war, they would be treated brutally and die shamefully if it became known that they had abandoned the defense line. That's also the reason why he called Shen to inform them about this tactic. "We've been completely cut off. There's no sign of reinforcements. The war is practically a defeat. There doesn't seem to be a chance to turn back. From now on, we have to survive and hold on." When he thought about their situation, he felt completely helpless. They can't run away now because it's midnight, and they might run into trouble with the Arkham soldiers, who might have already cut off their retreat route. The rugged terrain wasn't a suitable escape route. He didn't know why Alex was still fighting. If he wanted to, he could escape from the western front easily since he was at the rear, but instead, he wanted to destroy the path to the western territory and force the Arkham soldiers to take a dangerous route, the Terror of Renvier, to save time. The Terror of Renvier was the place where they would fight to the death. Baron Cohen felt severe headaches attacking him. "I have to stay here and wait for reinforcements, and with the walls still standing we have a good chance of surviving." Their wait didn't last long as the Arkham soldiers arrived at the gate, and their numbers were huge, unlike the previous time. Baron Cohen's hands shook as he saw the huge line. "Everyone take your position, Prepared to attack, the soldiers began searching for arrows. The repaired wall seemed to be holding up well, and they had already gotten more supplies of weapons. The Kinley soldiers were fully prepared this time as they didn't want to be pushed back again. The soldiers finished loading the weapons and believed that they wouldn't be easily defeated this time. Baron Cohen gave a speech about perfumery to rouse everyone's fighting spirit, and at first, it seemed to be successful in raising their morale. The soldiers shouted his name and cheered for him. They believed his words, and since they had limited information, they thought that staying behind the walls was the best option. However, they soon witnessed the harsh reality. The Arkham soldiers' attack this time was incompatible with the previous time. In the face of the current lineup, the previous attack seemed like a joke that only increased their confidence in the Swallows. The Arkham soldiers swarmed around the defense line like thousands of ants. They covered the fort from all sides and began to take down the archers and deployed the confiscated weapon right away. The courage that had arisen within Kinley's soldiers soon faded away. The fifth defense line was broken and the gate collapsed, shocking Baron Cohen, who realized that he should have listened to Alex instead of making the mistake of sending everyone to their deaths. Even if he turned traitor, at worst he could have fled, and at the very least he could still keep his head. Attack, charge, kill, which? Soon, the gate was broken and the enemies stormed in, laying waste to everything in their path. Kinley's soldiers were slaughtered mercilessly. Some tried to flee, but there was no escape route. Baron Cohen had his head cut off. The entire place was surrounded. Noah had already cut off the escape routes and trapped them. Other than wailing and trembling in fear, the commander was of no use, and they soon gained victory. Arkham's soldiers did not rush and took their time to take the fifth defense line, which fought fiercely, but soon the fire was put out. The third defense proved to be a tough nut to crack. The soldiers and mages did their best to keep the Arkham soldiers from getting close to the gates. The other sides also aimed their flares and took half of them at the beginning, even when the battle hadn't started yet. Although they posed problems at first, they were greatly outnumbered. The battle at the third defense line lasted for 5 hours, much to Noah's surprise. Noah Ark, who was reviewing his plan, frowned upon hearing the other commander. "Didn't I tell you to just follow my orders faithfully? Why did Duke Sheldon attack the second defense line without my permission? Your Highness, please calm down. Duke Sheldon is already dead. Rather than worrying about him, we should finish off that person who poses a threat." Noah was already stunned upon seeing their defeat at the second defense line. Although they got it back, it felt like it was a gift thrown to them. Noah, who was thinking deeply, asked for a survivor and upon arrival asked him to narrate the situation. Chapter 379, He is beyond the limit of the monster. The surviving soldier nodded and said, "We had the advantage at the beginning. The defense line was not prepared for the attack, and we broke through the gates as soon as possible. We were almost done when those two monsters accompanied by 1,000 soldiers appeared." Monster? No, they are even one step ahead. Not even monsters could describe their strength. Noah pondered for a moment and a certain memory came to his mind. Riaya, the legendary youngest in the world, Noah muttered weakly. The soldier's body trembled at the sound of the name. It was one of the survivors, and memories of the slaughter came back to his mind. Noah was shocked and asked, "Is she here?" The soldier nodded as he tried to control his trembling body. His entire body trembled in fear as he spoke. Although compared to the other one, she seemed quite normal. She appeared later, but the man attacked alone and kept killing everything that appeared in front of him. He didn't have a single scratch until the end, and the more he fought, the more ferocious he became. The woman is a monster in the strict sense of the word, but this man is beyond the limits of the monster. He was like an executioner and an assassin who was sent to the battlefield to send our lives to the Netherlands. He seemed to be a magician and a swordsman at once. His aura is dense and unfathomable, and he conveys an icy bloodlust that would freeze anyone who came near him. With a sword in one hand, he kept slashing at us, and with the other he bombarded us with terrifying and horrifying spells. Just thinking about the scene made the soldier's skin crawl. The people around him hadn't witnessed the true horror of that demon, otherwise they wouldn't be able to stand there calmly. Noah frowned as he tried to recall people who fit the description, but he couldn't recall anyone with that quality. For a moment he thought of that man who was married to Riaya, but he dismissed the thought as soon as it came to him. "He is Alex, the previous fifth prince," the soldier muttered. Although Noah's expression didn't change one bit, he was so shocked inside that he could feel his hands shaking. He closed his eyes for a moment as he carefully sank into deep thought. He had read reports about Alex, and although he knew of his exploits, The soldier's description of Alex seemed to go beyond what he had expected. It can't be. It's totally unbelievable. The man's sudden appearance seemed to stick an unwanted thorn in his heart. Since Duke Sheldon was dead, that meant that the surviving troops of the second defense line were still wandering around somewhere. According to the report that has reached us, there were no Kinley soldiers left when he captured the second defense line. They have attacked and seized control of the western garrison, but they seem to have disappeared after that, and last time, they were seen near the road to the Western Territory, where they were fleeing and destroying the road. Another soldier spoke up and stepped forward. Noah's expression darkened as soon as he heard the news. Since when did you know about it? Your Highness, it was reported 10 minutes ago, and it was also said that some have passed by that place. Noah clenched his fist as he felt that his plan had been thrown into disarray. General Zhang, seeing Noah's expression, stepped forward and said, Your Highness, we should start building the road. If we start now, we would be able to build a road in 3 days. Noah clicked his tongue and said, We can't just make a passable road. We need a strong and sturdy road to serve as support in case Kinley attacks us with full force and we retreat. I don't want the road to collapse easily. First and foremost, since the defense line is within our reach, we will turn this place into an invadable fortress that Kinley couldn't imagine taking back. That was the first half of the plan that would benefit them in the long run, while the second half would only alleviate their immediate needs. General Zhang took the 2nd Battalion and surveyed the damage. Send me a message with a brief report and start building a road. Use all the men at your disposal to finish the road and make the path firm and suitable for us to bring the army in. Yes, Your Highness. General Zhang bowed his head politely. It took an hour to bring order to the front. There were too many prisoners and they could become a variable if kept like this. On Noah's orders, they were executed without mercy. It was a cruel act, but Noah did not want to give these snakes any chance to show their fangs. He had taken control of the entire Western Front in just a day and a half, which is a cause for praise. Their initial objective had been accomplished, which had lifted a great weight off their shoulders. In the forts where the soldiers were brutally executed, corpses and blood could be seen everywhere. Noah passed by the place and stopped for a moment to observe the scene. At that moment, Noah heard a twisted laugh coming from the place where Kinley's soldiers were being killed. We know our end has come, but your time will soon come. You will beg for mercy and kneel to protect your life. Fear would envelop you and you will all die miserably like us without a coffin. The soldier spoke and spat at the Arkham soldiers, which made them very angry to the point that the soldier stabbed him several times. Noah stopped his steps for a moment. Your Highness, please do not think about that man's words. We are all doing this for the better future of our people. Thousands of people may curse us today, but millions will praise us tomorrow. Noah nodded and headed towards the meeting room. After organizing everything, Noah searched for routes to the Western Territory. They didn't have time to waste too much time, so Noah made a decisive plan. He sent one team to start building the roads and fixing the craters and cracks while another would carve a path through the rocky forest of terror of Ranvier. And while doing so, he would also take care of any remains that might be hidden there. Noah ordered Jack to take a battalion to scout the path and enter the Western Front to see if that path was feasible. But soon the plans changed. Your Highness, I have sighted a group of survivors from the 3rd Defense Line advancing towards Terror of Ranvier. Noah heard Jack's voice from the communication channel. Are they fleeing from there too? Noah muttered while rubbing his chin. It seems my guess was correct. Either some had hidden there or there was a clear path to the Western Territory, so it seems. They were going fast, the messenger replied. Estimate their number, approximately 4,000. Listen, Jack, you have 24,000 men. I order you to wipe them out quickly before they can cross the mountains. We were already running late when some people passed by on the street. We can't just let them leave. Yes, Jack muttered and immediately prepared to follow the order. Dave was the lieutenant of the 3rd Defense and was in charge of the troops. They moved according to orders and their goal was to meet Alex inside the forest. Count Pat was a highly respected commander and had incredible vision. Dave wished for him to escape and survive, but he had sworn to follow along with the defense line. As they approached the forest, they heard loud noises from behind, and Dave was shocked to see waves of enemies charging towards them. Kill those Kinley bastards, shit, Dave cursed. Everyone pick up speed and run forward, Dave ordered. With their destination in sight, he decided to push forward. He didn't know why, but he had a deep confidence that Alex might be waiting inside the forest and they just needed to get through it. But because of the new terrain, Their speed slowed down and the Arkham soldiers were able to catch up to them. Damn, these bastards don't know how to stop. It's already dusk time, but they still wanted us to chase them even though it would be dusk in a few moments, one of the Kinley soldiers cursed. Peace. Geez. Screams could be heard as Arkham killed the Kinley soldiers quite easily. Dave charged forward and exchanged blows with many at once. The bitter taste of defeat and blood still lingered in his mouth, making him nauseous. Thud. The soldiers surrounding him began to fall one after another. A sword pierced through the soldiers beside him. He instantly swung his sword towards the enemy and covered the soldiers and shouted, "Run back!" The soldiers fell back and began to run, while Dave stayed in front covering the tracks for the wounded to retreat. "Come at me, you bastards!" Dave shouts and brandishes his sword. Bang! 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 Dave was overwhelmed and was pushed back slightly, allowing another soldier to pass through him. The Arkham soldiers closed the gap in an instant and appeared behind the fleeing Kinley soldiers. They brandished their swords, but at that moment a shadow leapt through the bush and landed in front of them. And when their eyes met his, goosebumps rose all over their bodies. All the hair on their bodies stood up in fright. Under the darkness of the night, a pair of red eyes emanated a chilling killing intent that froze their bodies after blood splattered and bodies rolled down. Chapter 380, The King and Queen of Shadows. When Johnson heard Alex's plan, he was shocked beyond his wildest dream. Only a madman of his caliber could create such terrifying plans. He didn't know Alex at all, but during the month-long stay, he could see a glimpse of a complete madman beneath the mask of a gentleman. According to his understanding, Alex was the kind of man who showed a different side to different people. To his wives, he was loving, gentle, and caring, while to his daughters, he was a figure of respect and a person who set an example and trained them strictly. But to his enemies, his behavior took a 360-degree turn. The terror of Renvier Mountains were neither a suitable escape route nor a battlefield. The mountains were rugged, the forest was dense, and the conditions for survival were quite harsh. Only a person who had lived and survived here while mastering the arts of guerrilla tactics could dominate a battle in this place. The terrain was already horrible, but Alex had added a few extra twists that had increased the hard mode to hell mode. This place was not suitable for living, but when Johnson entered inside, he was speechless. He would never have imagined witnessing a scene like this. The scenery was totally different. There was a perfectly sized camp. There were narrow paths between the forest. Many caves had been made inside the mountains, and a part of the mountain had been cut down to make a path that blocked the escape route, and now one did not need to climb it. The planning and preparation was not something that was done in a single day, but was prepared long ago. Furthermore, under Alex's strict request, the training that was being carried out also took place at the beginning of Renvier's terror, meaning that most of the people in the reserve unit were accommodated to him. Not only that, Alex had destroyed the road leading to the Western Territory, which in the eyes of many is a suicidal move. Only Johnson along with a few others knew that Alex had already prepared an underground route, through which he had already sent soldiers to inform the kingdoms to prepare for the worst-case scenario. The insight that Alex showed was enough to make the enemies filled with fear. Johnson was already worried as soon as he heard that Noah Ark was in charge of the attack. He was an excellent strategist and was called the Rising Son of Arkham, who could lead Arkham to future glory after the fall. But seeing Alex, he wondered if that guy had any chance. After all, Alex could already create miracles with a small number of troops. The preparation on Arkham's part may have started many months ago, but within a month Alex had already made many plans. If he had a little more support, Arkham would be forced to retreat. Johnson shook his head and looked at the nobles standing by the campfire with blank expressions. Even they were stunned after seeing all this. If the young generation of nobles were so diligent, we wouldn't have faced such a situation to begin with. As Johnson spoke with a sigh, he heard shouts in the distance that alerted everyone resting there. It seems the act has already begun. Johnson turned around and shouted, "Soldiers, prepare for reinforcement. It's time for you to take your own medicine." Unlike a battlefield where hymns of screams and shouts were constantly ringing out, the atmosphere around them was completely silent. The Arkham soldiers narrowed their eyes. Their hearts were stifled and pounding violently. The ones who died wanted to open their lips to scream and shout to alert the others, but all of them were enveloped by the darkness of the night. An Arkham soldier who was fighting against the Kinley soldiers was suddenly enveloped by the darkness, and his body disappeared out of nowhere. In fact, instead of enemies, it was the Kinley soldiers, who came from the 3rd Defense, who screamed in fear and broke the dread of silence. "Ghost, Their bodies shuddered as they felt a tingling sensation that numbed their scales as they couldn't comprehend what kind of entity it was. Why? Their panicked screams echoed loudly, but at that moment, a pair of hands appeared and closed their lips and retracted them. The Arkham soldiers could sense the changes taking place in the place and stopped their movements and decided to stay. The night was dark and the moonlight was obstructed by the thick canopy. It was a damp and wet environment that gave off a feeling of irritation and decay. The only source of light was the fire torch made of straw and thorns. The person holding the torch waved it and shouted, "Who's there? Show yourself, coward. If you're a man, fight like a man." As they shouted in an attempt to provoke the enemy, a strong gust passed by them and the fire was immediately extinguished. The man flinched back as he heard soft, gentle words from behind. "I'm sorry, I'm a woman." That was the last thing he heard before being killed by others. No way. No way. As Rhea was rapidly slaughtering the enemies without giving them a chance to spot her, the other side had already been struck by overwhelming fear. The Arkham soldiers literally couldn't believe the sight before them. An epic knight had been killed in a single blow, but that wasn't the end of their shock. When they saw Alex rush towards all of them by himself. An enemy. Kill him! Dozens of Arkham soldiers screamed in panic and rushed to take down the man who had managed to kill them in a single blow. Alex, who appeared on the battlefield, smacked their heads and smashed them into pieces. His gaze had an air of indifference, as if the sheer number meant nothing to him. Kayak. Puak. The soldiers who approached Alex felt an aura of oppression. Alex's fierce eyes stared at them, causing their souls to tremble in fear. They felt as if nothing could be hidden from his eyes, and as soon as their eyes met his, their minds seemed to collapse as they found themselves drowning in an ocean of fear and misery. The soldiers who rushed towards him died as quickly as they came and left the world screaming. Those who were lucky enough to witness the scene couldn't comprehend anything and their minds went blank as they saw those who rushed over were cut down in a single slash. There was no sign of aura or mana fluctuations. It seemed as if they were fighting a normal human, but this normal human was slaughtering them like cows and pigs. Alex looked back and signaled all the troops on the third line of defense to retreat. Alex planned to kill the Arkham soldiers after letting them scream so that he could draw everyone's attention to him while Rhea and her men killed people silently. Alex looked at the loud footsteps approaching him and raised his left hand that was covered in darkness. A smile appeared on his face as he wanted to test his partial concealment skills along with the element of darkness he obtained after fighting with that being almost 2 years ago. Chapter 381, The King and Queen of Shadows 2. Alex's figure, who was standing on a pile of corpses, was suddenly covered in darkness. His figure began to melt like a dark liquid and when he hit the ground, he dispersed into nothingness. The Arkham soldiers were already out of breath after traversing the rough terrain and were startled to see a pile of corpses all over the place. They searched for the enemy but couldn't find a single living soul in the surroundings. They rushed to the spot after hearing the screams of screams, but as soon as they got there, all they found was deathly silence. One of the soldiers felt a small tap on his shoulder and cried out in panic. "Ugh!" He jumped back, leaned against the tree and cried out, "Oh! It's you, Lenny. Don't scare me like that. You're a scaredy cat," Lenny muttered with an amused smile and turned to look at the others who were searching through the bushes and trees, but when he looked back, he found that his friend had disappeared. He looked around but stopped in his movement as he felt the light fluctuate due to the variation of the torch flames. "You can't even hold a flame torch properly," he growled, and as he looked towards the man holding the toque, his gaze met with a pair of bloody eyes. He saw a black mass of shadow with nothing but 2 blood-colored eyes. He opened his lips to scream, but due to the excessive shock, nothing came out of his lips. Behind him, there was no one and dozens of soldiers were missing, as if all of them had never existed in that place. The black shadow extended its hand and everything in Lenny's vision turned dark. Every time Alex appeared, dozens of soldiers would disappear and become shrouded in darkness. The dark, black figure appeared once again with no one in sight. The darkness around Alex dissipated and he softly muttered, "It's hard for me to control it in the long run." Not even a few minutes had passed and he was already having a hard time maintaining that power. Only after using it did he know how strong this power was, and if one doesn't have a light element or some sort of divinity, the opposing person is doomed if the fight takes place at night, especially on a terrain like this. And Rhea, who is resistant to light elements due to her human nature, is a nemesis for enemies. Alex shuddered as he thought of Rhea's mastery over darkness and shadows. Since Rhea is the Shadow Queen, I must strive to become the Shadow King, Alex muttered and moved forward to kill the next group of men. Since Alex didn't use any aura or mana except when attacking or using concealment, the opposing force found it difficult to find Alex, who had completely masked his presence. Every time Alex moved, death followed. Ah! It's that monster, Alex. One of the soldiers managed to identify him and shouted his name, which spread and alerted everyone, but Alex didn't care, as knowing his name only added fuel to the fire of his fear. The soldiers from all sides released their aura and rushed towards him. The lower-ranked beasts hiding in the forest fled in fear, and trees began to fall one after another as the enemy's auras swept through the place. Alex retracted his sword and stabbed it forward. A sharp mass of condensed pressure that was shot out due to Alex's physical strength burst forth and made holes through everyone who came in the line of the attacks. Their images blurred and he appeared between them and swung his swords. Some soldiers tried to hold him down and restrain him while calling on others to attack him. Some tried to die by taking him with them, but they all failed and were brutally killed. All around them were killed one after another. Dave, who noticed the scene, was shocked to see Alex counterattack with overwhelming force and take everyone away. He had been looking for signs of others, but still, now, the only one he found was Alex. "This is just insane," Dave muttered in disbelief. "You haven't even seen the real thing, Hugh." Dave jerked back as he saw Alex appear very close to him out of nowhere. His mind was too stupefied to think about the attacks. "What do you mean?" Dave asked while sweating profusely. "The real attack will begin when everyone retreats. This is just me and my minions playing around and warming up." Alex spoke indifferently and smashed the soldier with the hilt of the sword. "Playing around? Warming up?" Dave's mind turned over after hearing Alex. "Don't think too much. Focus on gathering your troops." Dave nodded and asked hesitantly, "Can I stay and take a look?" Alex nodded and spoke. "But before that, find your men and ask them all to retreat." Due to the Arkham attack, Kinley's troops had been divided into many groups. Alex fears that these people might get lost and die pointlessly, so Alex had already sent some men to guide them and lead them away. Right now, he is simply eliminating the first wave of the enemy. The real attack would begin when the other side receives the news, and after the soldiers of the third line of defense retreat, the real fight could begin. While Dave heeds Alex's call and begins to search for the remaining troops, the enemy continued to fight as they tried to locate their enemy and shot at them in the darkness. One of them observed the situation and spoke. "There's only one enemy, everyone calm down. Don't disperse, stay in the group. Form a team and surround the enemy from all directions." Many of them focused on a single enemy and didn't know where or when the enemy would appear. They were being killed without giving them a chance to defend themselves. As the group moved forward carefully, a tree shook and fell on them. They reacted quickly and ran back and forth. The falling trees caused them to disperse, and Alex took advantage to kill them one by one. The game of hide and seek continued for some time until Jack and his troops received the news. Out of 1,500 men, all are annihilated. Chapter 382, Hunting in the Dark. Jack stared at the soldier's pale expression and controlled himself from exploding in anger. The soldier took a step back as he saw Jack looking at him in fear. "What happened there? Weren't you just chasing the enemies? Then how did this lead to your death? Are you saying that 1,500 men died like that?" "I don't know. We were advancing and killing Kinley's soldiers, but soon our people began to disappear one by one. We tried to locate them, but all we found were scattered corpses of our comrades. We only heard the name," Alex shouted, "but we found nothing. As soon as I noticed the anomaly, I rushed here to inform you." Jack clenched his fist tightly and gritted his teeth in anger. How could he forget the name? The surviving soldiers on the second line of defense were so scared that they didn't dare touch their weapons. Just hearing his name was enough to give them a heart attack. Two conjectures had been thought of previously. Either Alex and his men escaped after destroying the route, or they hid here, and in the second case, the person who ran away didn't like Alex and wanted to stay with him here and die. They had even thought of asking him to side with them in case they betrayed him, which to them was simply unforgivable since he was a sinner who massacred his countrymen. And now he was once again blocking their path. Jack's blood boiled for revenge as he thought of the name and spoke with a sneer. "Good. So, this is where the rat is hiding." He walked around and shouted to his men behind him. "My men. Deep within the dark forest is a sinner who killed your brothers and trampled their corpses. He left not a single survivor, even though our people surrendered and begged for mercy. He is a cruel and rotten bastard who takes pleasure in another's suffering. Anyone who brings me his head will be released with 5,000 gold coins," shouted Jack with a wicked grin. "We will kill him and tear him to pieces," shouted one of the soldiers and followed him, and loud shouts could be heard. "Kill the sinner! Kill the sinner! Kill the sinner!" Patriotism for their country burned in their eyes as they stared fiercely into the depths of the forest. If they were sane, it wouldn't take long for them to realize that what they were doing was worse than the other side. Did they also kill the survivors, cut off the commander's head, and use the heads of the dead and display them as trophies? But sometimes extreme patriotism takes over a mind and clouds a sense, making it unable to discern what is wrong or right, leading one to walk the path of extremism. I want all of you to go forward and kill your people before your eyes and bring your head to me. We will present your head and use it as an example to show our strength to others who dare to raise their heads against us." The soldiers' eyes shone with greed after hearing the reward. 5,000 gold coins was enough for them and their children to live a life full of leisure and comfort. Driven by greed, they did not care to think about the enemy's level or their strength. They didn't even know the basic information, neither the strength nor the weakness of the opponent, and yet they were ready to jump forward without any caution. Jack, after finishing his speech, ordered everyone to enter at once. Denver, the transcendent rank lieutenant, walked beside Jack and spoke with a frown. "Commander, don't you think it's too hasty? Alex and Rhea had easily killed the legendary rankers. Shouldn't we take some precautions? Besides, it's already night time. Searching for them won't be easy, I know." Jack watched his advancing soldiers. Unlike Sheldon, who was at the transcendent rank, he was at the legendary rank and had also made a name for himself in his early days. He was a retired veteran and was known for his fiery and aggressive temper, but he was brought back to lead the troops due to the current situation. "I may be impulsive, but I'm not a fool. It was Duke Sheldon's carelessness that cost him his life. If he had used his full strength, he wouldn't have suffered such a fate. Also, only Alex and Rhea are the only ones who can compete against a legendary rank, but they also have their limitations. They can't take on 1,000 on their own." From the report, I saw that Alex knew a widespread destruction spell that combined with his swordsmanship to rampage, but in this place, isn't he restricting himself? Jack spoke with a wide smile and ordered. "We'll disguise ourselves as common soldiers and delve deeper in search of an opportunity, and when we find one, we'll seize it and kill him. But before that, we'll tire him out completely through continuous waves of soldiers." Crackle. 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 A light cracking sound could be heard as the surrounding darkness was pushed back by the fire. The soldiers continued to advance through the thick forest and arrived at the steep lands that rose up. They all carefully observed the terrain and searched as they looked around. They first checked the sound of dry leaves clacking as they tried to listen for the enemy's movements. They could sense the strangeness around them, though everything around them seemed normal and the trees looked ordinary. It was that normal atmosphere that was scaring the hell out of them. The soldiers exhaled deeply as they heard the rustling of leaves and suddenly became alert, but even after a while nothing strange happened. Step, step, step. As the soldiers marched, he stepped on a twig which snapped with a crack. His face stiffened as he heard a whistling sound, and before he could turn around, he was hit by a thick log that sent him and others flying like a rag doll. "Arg! Where did this log come from? Did someone attack us?" a soldier shouted. As the flame showed in the darkness, the area they couldn't see lit up. They looked to the left. They looked to the right. There was nothing strange except seeing a pair of logs leaning against a tree trunk. The man leading them thought this was strange and carefully approached to observe the logs. As he continued forward with his search, whistle, a pair of hands emerged from the darkness surrounding the necks of the soldiers at the back. They couldn't even make any movement or shout for help. In a fleeting instant, his neck twisted and the life slipped away from him. It made a small thud as it fell, but the others didn't hear it due to the pattering sound and rustling of leaves caused by a gentle breeze. The soldiers behind began to disappear one after another. Before they could react, a pair of dead hands grabbed them and twisted their necks. The small moans escaping their lips were rather weak and suppressed by other footsteps. And unknowingly, the soldiers in front began to move towards their deaths without noticing anything strange happening. Chapter 383, Hunting in the Dark. The soldiers continued to march forward. At first they found the presence of logs strange, but after observing and finding nothing strange, they thought that the enemies were simply saving them for later use, but they might have forgotten about it and one of the logs might have fallen due to the rain. "Nothing is wrong, so move forward," the man ordered and turned his back as darkness swallowed another of his men. Death stood on their backs and began to take them away one by one. 1, 2, 5, 10. The numbers began to increase rapidly. At first he didn't find it strange, but when he and others noticed that the light was slowly dimming and the number of lit torches had decreased, the man realized that something was wrong. He gasped in shock when he found only dozens of men behind him, which initially consisted of a group of 100 men. When he started, his surroundings were filled with torches that illuminated brightly, but now everything was dark. He glared at his men angrily and shouted, "Idiot, what the fuck were you doing? Can't you notice the changes happening around you?" The soldier muttered as he felt bad and muttered, "Even you weren't able to sense the change, so why are you blaming us, bastard? You dared to agree even in this kind of situation," he muttered. His body shuddered as he couldn't even find someone's presence. He took out a whistle and wanted to blow it, wanting to send a single danger to everyone, but as soon as he took it out of his pocket with his trembling hands, he grabbed it in shock. Small orbs of fire appeared around him and they numbered in the hundreds. The orbs illuminated and shook the darkness from the entire place, which startled them greatly. The man and his soldiers stepped back due to the sudden fire, and as they followed a path that was illuminated by the orbs, their eyes met with a horrifying scene that almost took their breath away. They were able to recognize the existence that stood before them. That seemed to be hell unfolding on the battlefield. The man's body shuddered and his hands that were holding the whistle froze. Sitting on a pile of corpses, drenched in blood, the demon with fearsome eyes was staring straight at them. Seeing all of the Arkham soldiers lying on the ground without even a slight movement, they looked at Alex with a pale expression. At that moment, they heard a sharp and crisp voice. "I heard everyone aiming for my head. I'm sitting in front of you now. Why don't you try it? Show me the guts you showed before." The soldiers gulped and tried to draw their swords, but noticed many eyes coming out of the darkness and were soon hit by someone who appeared out of nowhere and were killed. Alex looked at his men and said, "Commence Operation Ambush." The terror of Ranvier can be considered a vast desert with an extensive forest and rugged mountains. Its radius was quite large, and searching for enemies there was like searching for a needle in a tree. So instead of wasting an ambiguous search, Arkham wanted to eliminate all the enemies in the mountains at once and threw them all at once. It was even difficult for them to search for the enemies, but Alex had him on a map that helped him locate the enemies and his men. He had stationed his men at specific points, and the trees, along with the locations, had been marked and named with codes for reference purposes. The flame ignited by the Arkham soldiers not only illuminated the place, but also helped Alex's men easily notice them in the deep darkness. Crack! 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 The twisting of bones was accompanied by the rumble of bones breaking. The soldiers meticulously searched for the enemies but failed to find anyone in sight. Even if someone was lucky enough to spot the enemy, they couldn't survive the moment to alert the others. Soon, all around, Arkham soldiers began to die one by one. The death of the Arkham soldiers didn't last long, and soon after it was discovered that a whistling sound pierced the silence of the darkness and resounded everywhere. Whistle! Whistle! It alerted everyone. The enemy had already appeared. Discover their location and cut off their escape route. Drive the enemy to a single location. Everyone was on alert and their eyes turned back and forth to check the surroundings. The warriors used their aura to illuminate the darkness while the mages used their spells. However, no matter how hard they searched, they couldn't find anyone. The enemy was nowhere to be seen. They couldn't understand how someone who was standing next to them disappeared without even making a sound. At that moment, another whistle sounded with a different frequency than before, startling everyone. Boom! Suddenly a loud explosion occurred somewhere which caused some people to die. At the place where the explosion occurred, a fire broke out. The soldiers stared at the fire and thought that enemies were present there and rushed towards the place. As they hurriedly marched, they crossed an invisible thread in their path which caused the trees around them to swirl, and soon logs appeared out of nowhere and hit them, causing them to fall to the high ground. While others' feet seemed to get caught in the hook and their bodies were sent upwards with a jerk. An arrow pierced their throats and killed the people who were caught in the hook. The ground began to collapse and many fell into a small hole which exploded and turned them into ashes. As if a button was pressed, many deadly traps appear one after another. "Where the hell are they?" one of the soldiers muttered as he screamed in agony, trying to free himself from the hook around his legs and stopped his movements. At that moment, a shadow passed quickly, and after passing through it, the man trapped in the trap appeared with his neck twisted. Not all of the hole traps exploded, and some of the soldiers tried to climb up the hole. "Give me your hand." Many hands appeared over the crater offering their help. The soldiers could not make out their faces in the darkness, and as if someone could remember everyone in the army, they thought someone on their side offered them help. But as soon as they climbed up and grabbed hands, their body was lifted with a yank in one hand and another hand appeared over their Adam's apple and crushed it, ripping them from their lives. Every time the shadows passed, an Arkham soldier died without having a chance to utter a word. The corpses were thrown into the pit to become natural fertilizer for the tree. Soon the pit began to fill up to the brim, which was covered by dirt and leaves. One by one, the Arkham soldiers began to find themselves in an unpredictable and helpless situation like never before. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 384, Hunting in the Dark. The Renvier Terror Forest started from a low to high area that was followed by mountains. The reason it was called the Renvier Terror was that centuries ago, the Western Front was called Renvier, and anyone who was caught in this place would find themselves terrified by the ferocious wildlife and the vast, deadly wilderness. After Kinley occupied the Western Front due to several fights, the beasts were eradicated and their numbers stabilized, but the ancient forest with rugged mountains could still kill some if they were caught here without any prior knowledge. The rugged mountains and blinding darkness were factors that did not let anyone see even an inch. They limited the movements of both sides, but since the reserve units had been training in a place like this for a month, they could move freely. In order to conceal their presence, each of them dove into the mud and rolled in leaves, resulting in their current deteriorated condition. If they stood near the bush, it might be difficult for them to even identify whether it was a human or a tree. And all the beasts' numbers were low, but they weren't at the point of extinction. There were still many deadly beasts living in the forest. Alex was able to locate them with his monosensor map and was able to stay away from them, but this couldn't be said to be true for the others. With the explosion earlier, it had led them towards the arachnoid spider monster's cave. A twisted scream echoed through the forest. A mass of twisted flesh appeared, followed by large dark legs, followed by many glowing crimson eyes that shone in the darkness along with a twisted voice. The cavern they lived under shook due to the explosion, and many arachnoid spiders crawled out of it. The first thing they saw was humans disturbing their rest. The fresh scent of blood stinging filled the air around them. Screech. 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 The Arkham soldiers began to feel uneasy hearing the sound. There were a lot of strange things going on around, and the traps hidden along the way were already making movement difficult. The soldier with a torch as he swung illuminated the path and saw a huge mass of flesh writhing in front of him. He raised his torch and brought his sword forward as he walked carefully. The light illuminating him showing the way suddenly fell upon a dark, slimy figure whose many eyes stared at him. He screamed in fear and brandished his sword, but the arachnoid spider jumped on him and opened its jaws, taking a bite and engulfing the soldier's head and body. The abrupt scream mortified everyone, and soon they found a horde of epic rank spiders running towards them. Grows. No way. Ow. The Arkham soldiers tried to fight back but were rendered immobile. This was the spider's terrain and they were familiar with the topography. Leaping from tree to tree, they shot out webs that completely enveloped the Arkham soldiers. One of the soldiers cut a web with his oar and leapt forward, piercing the spider's skull. Squirt. A rotten-smelling liquid gushed out of its head, as the monster screamed in pain. It struggled and tried to shake the man off but was unsuccessful, and due to the disturbance, many spiders jumped on the man. The Arkham soldiers were nothing more than food in the eyes of the spiders, who were violently searching for them. Since Alex's troops had masked their presence and their methods of killing included swapping and twisting necks, blood didn't splatter on them, so most of the spiders didn't seek them out. Unlike them, Alex and Raya were drenched in blood, and the presence and scent could be felt from a distance. But it wasn't easy for them to find Raya, who could become one with the darkness. Meanwhile, being trained in different types of topography, every territory had become Alex's home turf. He was even forced to fight in the depths of boiling lava while putting on a monoshield or covering himself with aura, so it didn't even matter if he was on steep slopes that covered my forest. The spider that followed Alex headed towards the Arkham soldiers. Alex knew that this strategy wouldn't last long. The number of spiders was approximately 200. Although they had claimed hundreds of enemy lives, it was still a meager amount compared to the thousands of Arkham soldiers. So, Alex continued to actively kill enemies along his way. Alex made the most of his partial concealment. Even when standing in front of someone, it was difficult to discern the others. When he moved, even if he stepped on twigs or leaves, No sound could be heard due to his light, feather-soft footsteps. Unless Alex attacked the other side, they had no way of finding him. When the place that had just been illuminated by the torch's fire was once again covered in darkness, Alex made his move. Hoop. Hoop. Thud. He attacked his enemies by surprise. The sword that descended from the darkness was not something that could be easily dodged, and the Arkham soldiers died with their eyes wide open. "There's an enemy here," whistles began to sound loudly. The Arkham soldiers knew that the enemy was close by, so they tightened their formation, but Alex had already jumped out of the net and began to take down the outer side of the soldiers in the net. Hoops. Ouch. Screams and screams began to be heard everywhere. Those who tried to catch Alex found themselves trapped. As they hallucinated, they could see Alex appearing from all sides and killing them immediately. The Arkham soldiers looked around frantically and tried to close the gaps to protect themselves, but Alex managed to pierce through the gap that was eventually created and wiped out the entire 100-person squad in the blink of an eye. Chapter 385, Destroying Their Minds. The Arkham soldiers may never have thought that they would end up as mice caught in a trap, waiting to be slowly devoured by the predator. Initially, they thought that they had a numerical advantage, and using torches and other means, they could find the enemies, but their enemies targeted exactly those carrying the torch and then enveloped them in darkness. No one could locate Alex even with the light of the flashlight. Meanwhile, if Alex's men were located, the watchman was not left alive to spread the story. And the whistles used to alarm the others, instead of alerting them, created more confusion. The Arkham soldiers were frustrated and angry, but more than that, they were afraid of the unknown. Overconfidence caused them to make careless mistakes. They should never have entered there during the night. Those who knew the aura tried to lead others and take the lead, but Alex and his men continued to aim for their blind spots, and to their misfortune, those using the aura were quickly eliminated, causing everyone following them to fall into chaos. Every time the sword ignited, a ghostly shadow would pass by them, leaving behind a corpse with eyes wide open in confusion and surprise. Still, none of Alex's soldiers moved hastily. They were instructed to move only if they saw the opportunity. There was no need to rush and take risks. This night was going to be theirs, and they would feast on the enemy's blood. The Arkham Empire didn't know how many enemies they were facing, nor did they know what Kinley's soldiers had in store for them. The night was still long, and Alex's plan wasn't to annihilate the enemies in one go, but to kill them throughout the night without overexerting himself. He wants to break their minds with fear and force them to make careless mistakes. His strategy had already been successful because many Arkham soldiers were really scared. And it wasn't even the full force of Alex's battalion. There were currently only 2,500 people hiding in the vast desert, facing off against Arkham's numbers. Back in the mountains, Johnson was already instructing and preparing another group of soldiers in case anything troublesome arose. Jack, who had disguised himself, gulped anxiously. He had planned to sneak in and discover Alex's presence and deal with him quickly. He would run whenever he heard a whistle or a shout of his name, but to his terror, he couldn't even sense the enemy's presence, let alone see them. He was completely dumbfounded and wondered what was going on. All of his previous confidence had vanished after encountering that hellish situation. He had been running around like a headless man, and in the midst of the chaos, his right-hand man, Lieutenant Denver, who was accompanying him, had disappeared. This had terrified them greatly, as he was close to him and yet he was still missing. Rather than lost, he was sure that he had been killed. He was truly in a bind and felt like he had made a grave mistake in weakening the enemy. There were traps set for them, and on top of that, the other side was using the beasts in the place to distract them and deal with them. And about the people being killed out of nowhere, he didn't know what the hell was going on. Even a legendary ranked warrior like him had become a useless observer, as before him the soldiers kept dying. "It's there. Move quickly." He could hear the voice of the soldiers. Every time they heard the sound of their comrade's death, they would rush towards the place like crazy, only to find corpses scattered everywhere. The number of corpses kept increasing, and even though 1,000 soldiers were searching for it, no one was able to catch a glimpse of the death that was slowly approaching them. Slowly, beads of sweat began to form on Jack's forehead as he thought that this couldn't go on like this. He couldn't afford any more nonsense. At this moment, only he knew how much he wished for the sun to appear in the sky and clear away the darkness. Jack quickly took out a magic called Architect Stone and contacted the other side. He needed to inform his lord as soon as possible so that they could make some modifications to the plan. As he commented on the call, A short distance away from him, two pairs of eyes were watching the man. The moment Jack entered the place, he was already on Alex's radar, and Alex had tried to order all of his children to stay away from this man. Seeing him connect with the other side, a playful smile appeared on his face as he planned to sneak attack this guy. He released the partial concealment and took his stance, hoping that the man would be distracted. He wanted to finish this at once instead of fighting a head-on battle. As soon as the call connected, Jack spoke with a pained expression. "Your Highness, we are in trouble. The enemies are fighting from the shadows without showing their presence. We need help. If we stay like this, we will all die." His voice and words shocked the people on the other side. They had been waiting for the report and good news, but what they received was a scream and a plea for help. Noah heard Jack's voice and spoke firmly. "Calm down, Jack. You are a commander and have a legendary rank. Take care of your image first and foremost. The enemies are outnumbered, and since it seems like you are fighting from the forest, it seems like they are using the darkness to kill you. But even if they kill 1,000, 2,000, or 7,000, we still have more than double that amount. So be careful of your surroundings and try to locate them. Your Highness, you are misunderstanding the situation. No matter how many times we tried, we were unable to find the enemy or locate them. As we continued to search, our soldiers had been turning into corpses with each passing moment." Chapter 386, Sneak Attack. Your Highness, only those present here know the horror. They are not using shadows, rather it feels like they are shadows. They are like a formless and invisible existence that appears and disappears without a trace. Jack, who was speaking, started to tremble as he continued to speak. His heart started to beat frantically. Although Noah was not at the location, he could sense that the situation was quite bad, to the point that even Jack, a legendary, was tired. Jack is a legendary rank, and at this level, with his mastery over aura, he would be able to find faint traces as his senses are far more developed than others. So no matter how dark it is, how is it possible to remain unnoticed? Noah's judgment was not wrong. At a higher level, one could use mana to increase vision, which could even pierce through the darkness and determine the enemy's location. It's only plausible if they were using some sort of secret artifact or spell like us that helped conceal our movements. Even so, our artifact can only hide our appearance. It can't mask our presence or hide mana fluctuations. No, it's not possible. The remnants could be led by Alex, who is now the king of a small kingdom. There's no way he could find such an artifact. Besides, even if he knew magic, what kind of magic could it be? There's something wrong and I'm not able to put my finger on it. Noah fell into deep thought. His and Ritaya's presence were already something he would have never expected to be here. Both of them had shown rapid growth and had good potential, so shouldn't they be somewhere where they can show their brilliance rather than here, unless they pulled some strings to get here? Noah asked Jack to tell him all the details. The more he listened, the more confused he became. He felt like he was searching through a bottomless pit. He had seen Alex's information, but nothing matched Jack's description. Ritaya's fighting style was that of an assassin, so she might be the one who was skilled at fighting in the dark, but as Jack described it, he heard Alex's name many times during the battle. Of course, winning isn't as easy as it seems, Noah muttered as he felt like all his experience would be put to the test at this moment. Jack waited for Noah's order and soon heard the same firm tone as before. As time goes on, the enemy will surely reach the limits of their physical strength. Our troops outnumber them many times over, and if the battle drags on, they will be the ones in trouble. Don't be fooled by the darkness and the surroundings. The enemy is trying to scare you all and put you at a physiological disadvantage, which seems to be successful. Wait, watch, and act patiently. You might find out soon. I'll lead my troops there. If the situation gets tough, just retreat. The situation may have changed a little, but it wasn't something that would tip the entire scale of the battle. Instead of getting carried away, he looked at reality. The situation is still favorable to them. They still have a large number of troops. The loss of another 10,000 or 20,000 is insignificant compared to that number. Noah frowned as he received no response. He expected some sort of response from Jack, but what he received was a loud gasp coming from the other side. "Jack, are you there? Did the enemy appear?" Noah received nothing. Noah thought about moving his troops, but when he was about to do so, he heard a desperate cry from the other side. Arg. Jack, who was talking to Noah suddenly had a bad feeling. He hurriedly raised his sword and looked around in fear. Due to panic, he even forgot to cut off the call and put it around his waist. The uneasiness surrounding him gave him chills. There was not a single trace of confidence on his face with which he entered the forest. Facing an enemy that cannot be seen or found could easily scare anyone. He remembered Noel's advice, took a deep breath and looked around. Hiss. He felt something at the side and turned his head. The leaves on the trees and bushes seemed to sway slightly. It's there. I found it. You're done for this time. Once my hand catches you, you'll be done for. Jack steeled his heart and dashed towards the direction, carefully. Soon, he caught the slight trace of mana and a smile appeared on his face. Of course it's there, he muttered softly. The mana around him exploded and covered everything behind him and he swung his sword crushing everything. The wind in that direction was cut off. Jack jumped towards him and when he reached the place, instead of the enemy he found the corpse of the Arkham soldiers. His face turned pale as a sheet of paper and he turned his gaze in all directions. Behind him, on the tree branch, a pair of bloody eyes appeared. A red sword appeared, but the next instant, it was covered by a dark-colored aura that completely blended in with the surroundings. Jack's body suddenly stiffened. He felt an intense thirst for blood on his back. But before he could react, something passed through him as fast as light. For a moment he didn't feel anything but when he looked down, he saw a cut on his chest. He was cut from behind but in front a large hole appeared where blood splattered. After a while, with a scream, he fell to the ground with a face of horror. Knock. Knock. With a soft noise, he soon saw the apparition of the man who had made his life a living hell appearing from the darkness with a casual smile. Alex stepped on the test of Jack that had been and cast a small healing. That was enough to stop the blood loss. Jack, what's wrong? Why are you screaming? Are you okay? You didn't cut the call, Alex said with an amused expression. Chapter 387, If you fall, what will happen to them? Alex crouched down and picked up the communicator from which a voice filled with unease resonated. Alex had heard a bit of conversation. Alex stared at the mana communicator stone and then at Jack, who stared at him with wide eyes. What Noah advised could change the scale of the battle. If indeed, Jack had stood still and observed everything, perhaps he wouldn't have suffered a fate like this. After all, he is a legendary ranked warrior. Since the other side was using the terrain, if Jack were to use his aura and destroy everything within a 50-meter radius, then Alex would have no choice but to come out and engage in a head-on battle as he would have nowhere to hide. But Jack was not capable of thinking about that. Initiation and intimidation were the two reasons that brought about such a change. From the moment they set foot in that place, Alex and his men were the ones who first hit the nail on the head. He and betrayal were the special case that couldn't be found as long as they didn't appear, but his men didn't have that kind of power, so if the enemies fought carefully they might be able to deal with them, but fear had already overwhelmed them, unable to make them think properly. Alex gave a crooked smile to Jack who with a pale expression began to scream in fear. Don't come closer to me, demon. Have you gone mad? I'm already on top of you and you're asking me to leave? Shouldn't I invite the guests that have come? Alex asked with a laugh. Who are you? Are you a worthy enemy? Would you like to tell me your name? Alex heard Noah's voice from the other side and took the mana communicator and spoke. I am Alex von Leonhard of Kingley. It is a pleasure to meet you, Noah Ark, known as the Rising Sun. Noah was silent for a moment and continued. Alex, you were previously known as the Fifth Prince but you were cast out. You have been placed here and there may be a reason, and I am sure it is not that Arkham was waging a war. You may have been stationed in a desolate land where you would not be able to prosper, you may have been betrayed. I consider you to be a very talented person which is why I am offering you my help. I will make you the Duke of Arkham if you accept my hand and together we will soar into the sky. On top of that, you will also have a considerable amount of power and I will also grant you a piece of land that we have conquered. Noah Ark, tell me, do you think I am a fool? And you have yet to conquer the place and you never will as long as I am here. If your legendary rank life wasn't in my hands, would you have offered me this kind of deal? Your main motive was to wipe us out no matter what, and what are the chances that you wouldn't stab me in the back? Alex spoke in a rough voice and raised his tone. Listen to me well and engrave this in your mind. Any enemy that steps foot on this land will be killed no matter who they are or how much strength they have. You struck first so you must bear the consequences of your actions. I won't deny my responsibility. As is well known, the Arkham Empire is going through a terrible calamity. There have been troubles everywhere, the common people have nothing to eat. Trade has slowed down. Our soldiers have been dying due to the war with the demons. Our border can't hold out. It was agreed in the pact that everyone would join together to fight the demons, But no one had helped nor was willing to give us any help or money. That's why we launched an attack on Kinley. We have no choice but to make that decision in order for Arkham to survive and maintain its existence. Are you asking me to sympathize with you and change my heart just for this? No, I am not asking you to sympathize with me or trying to convey to you how desperate we are. The lives of the people of my empire are at stake. Our supply of goods is at stake. The power of the second prince would be exhausted in a few months. However, we will not back down at any price. I will do everything in my power to stop the fall of my nation, even if I have to sell my soul for the safety of my nation or punish in hell for my wrongdoings. Noah breathed heavily after his chilling statements. Being the second prince and a man of great responsibility, he could not erase the image of his people begging him for food every time he passed by his house. The children looked like bags of bones, and the adults looked like they were a decade old due to their troubles. The situation was so dire that even the soldiers' rations were reduced to help the others. Noah always felt troubled by this, and Arkham even sought the help and revelation of the goddess. And the oracle only gave a single statement. You will find the solution to your problem outside of yourself, and since Kinley was by his side, that means the key to stopping his fall lies with Kinley. You already know my plans, so you should know how far I can go. Tell the Kinley royal family to offer us a large sum or sign the pact to help us drive away the demons, or we will let the miasma that has been rampant in our land infect the Western Territory and turn it into the land of death. I have already made the decision to fall for the sake of my country, but what choice will you make, Alex? Even if I die here, I will be praised. But will the people praise you or bury your name? I know that Shen had some conflict with one of your wives. If you fall, what will happen to them? Will you fall here or to make a compromise? The choice is yours, Alex. I hope you choose wisely. Noah awaited Alex's response from the other side, but instead of words, what came was a bestial scream and a cacophony of breaking bones. Chapter 388, Damn Psychopath. Noah's words struck Alex. And in particular, the term miasma made him think if this was the result of his action 2 years ago, or if someone had something to do with it. This was enough for him to ponder the matter a bit. But no matter what, he really had to admire Noah's courage. For now, he is a great villain to Kinley, but for Arkham, he has grown up and become their backbone. In this situation, he was their only hope and means of survival. It was a talent that had been recognized by everyone, both within and outside the nation. Thanks to the systematic and bold judgment, Alex recognized Noah's ability. For a moment, he sympathizes with his ambition even if it was very small. But so what? From what Noah was implying, their condition was bad because of this miasma, not the war with the demons. The miasma is destroying their lands and in doing so, destroying their source of life. Was there no other way for the Arkhams to survive than waging this war? If there is such a serious problem with the miasma, shouldn't they contact the church, which is an independent organization and does not belong to any particular nation? After all, 2 years ago Kinley had gone through the same disaster but was able to solve the case. Athena's presence had only sped up the process, which took an extra day to purify. Athena only needed a few minutes. Arkham should also have its saint, so even if it took months she should be able to purify the land. So, instead of trying to find a way to get rid of the miasma, you took several men and came here to show off your power and preach your sorrows. If this isn't so, then what? And more than that, Alex didn't like someone giving him a choice and threatening him with his wife's name. Even if I die, my wives are strong enough to fight back and wreak havoc on Arkham to take revenge on my behalf. Alex's lips curved upwards in a sinister smile and his gaze fell on Jack, who was breathing heavily. Ugh. Hearing the scream, Noah hurriedly spoke from another side. What's going on? What are you doing? Stop it. Alex had driven his sword into Jack's thigh, and thanks to the sound barrier he had placed around the place, no one outside the barrier could hear the screams. Alex pressed down hard on the sword and slowly rotated it, exerting strong pressure which caused Jack to scream even more. Arg. 4. Jack's expression was distorted due to the deep pain, and he tried to writhe all over the place. The wound in his chest that had been closed by Alex opened once more and blood began to pour out of it. Alex cast a small healing spell on that area, and the muscles and veins around the spot attached themselves to the sword. Jack felt a different sensation. Although the pain suddenly subsided, his body trembled in fear thinking about what Alex was going to do. His heart was pounding and his chest was rising and falling. His vision was already fading as his mind was ravaged by pain and terror. The gap in Jack's thigh closed with a sword strike, but as Alex twisted further, Everything around that spot shattered once more. I'm stabbing and torturing your precious man so that he can emit the sweet hymn of pain. Oh, what a heavenly tune, Alex said sarcastically. Did you hear it, Noah's Ark? What does the sweet sound of pain look like? Please leave me the review so I can train my torture skills. Damn you. You're a crazy psychopath. You're not normal. You're insane, you fucking moron. During the call, Noah was sweating profusely. He had never met such a broken person in his life. A hoarse, heavy voice accompanied by a tight squeeze resounded from the other end. Kill him if you want, but don't torture him. No matter how much enmity we have, we should at least respect our enemies. They're fighting for a noble cause, so they deserve a proper death. Do you think I'm a saint? You send your men and want my head, and I should just offer it to them like this. Your empire is in a mess, and to show our sympathy, we Kinley soldiers should either offer our heads or retreat without a fight, Alex shouted. Every villain had their circumstances. Dedication is a good thing, but if you dedicate yourself to the wrong cause or achieve your goals through the wrong means, you are nothing but rotten wood that can never be carved or used anywhere. Just because one of your men tortured you, you are spouting all such nonsense. What about the number of lives lost by Kinley so far? When your soldiers died here, 10 had died on our side. No matter what, it was you who crossed the border and slaughtered the innocent soldiers, so stop barking like a coward. Just as you care about your country, do I care about my men? Listen carefully to me, Noah's Ark. For every drop of my man's blood, I will make my enemies pay, and I don't care if you are an individual, an organization, an empire, or a power that stands at the peak of strength. As long as my men and my wives are hurt, I will slaughter them all until the end. Hearing Alex's words, Noah realized that he had made a grave mistake. Alex was not a normal man. No matter what choices or reasons he is given, he does what he wants and strives to do what is right. He was like a psychopath who behaved like a normal man, but just when one touched his reverse scale, his manic side took over. His words had a powerful momentum, and the confidence with which Alex spoke terrified Noah, and even more so, how can a sane person think of going against the entire world? Jack screamed in pain, and the pain in his femur being pierced and twisted was not something he could suppress, so he screamed in despair to the point that tears welled up in his eyes. Alex did not know Jack, nor did he have any personal enmity, but he had only heard that this man wanted his head, and he exchanged it for 1,000 gold coins, which was enough to put this man on his wanted list. Alex didn't give a damn about values or justice. As long as he believes he was right, there will be no stopping him. Arkham may be in the worst situation, but when Kinley is attacked, as a citizen of Kinley and a former prince, it was his only duty and right to retaliate, and because of that he never had any complicated thoughts, and there was no need to back down. Alex had clearly shown his hostility and even warned Noah. Alex knew that Noah had full understanding of the situation and had set up many camps, but Alex decided that until they surrendered, he would send shivers down their spines. He remembered the devil's words. What matters is not victory, but the way it is achieved. I am not telling you to use cheap or gruesome tricks, but to show your enemies the true meaning of despondency and horror. Make fear be engraved deep within their hearts, so that every time they raise their weapons, they think about it 1,000 times. You have to be a man who cannot be offended. And that's why if Arkham didn't surrender, Alex would show them true terror. Without any further words, Alex cut and killed Jack after making him howl and scream in pain until his throat couldn't produce any sound. Noah cut off the call and closed his eyes, unable to let go of the screams. Noah felt like he had touched someone he shouldn't have. After cutting off the call, Noah remained silent like a statue as he suppressed his overflowing anger. It's dangerous. It's more lethal and poisonous than I thought. A normal person would have fallen after a threat or thought for a moment, but Alex was saying something like, try me if you can, but no matter what happens, I will crush you all even if I have to go down with you. Even though Alex knows how dire his situation is, he was still bold enough to send Jack's life as a warning. Just the fact that Alex ignored and disobeyed him made Noah's heart clench. It was a humiliation and shame that he would never forget in his life. And he was never treated like this in his life. The other side didn't even care about his words for a second. Behind him, another general stood up and asked Noah, what shall we do now? We have to get rid of that pest by any means. Mobilize all the troops right now and form a formation to seize the entire terror of Ranvier and surround it. Catch him, whether he's alive or dead. If he's alive, I'll torture him and cut off every single one of his flesh to avenge the death of my precious soldiers. This time, I'll personally monitor the situation so that nothing strange happens, leave some troops to guard the defense lines, and also all the generals will accompany me. If the situation calls for it, I'll even use my trump card." Seeing Noah's anger and determination, General Zhang nodded and said, "I'll obey your order and take down that scum." Chapter 389, A Battle of Strategies. Arkham didn't have much time. If they stood still, the entire empire would fall. Thus, all the warriors mobilized and willingly risked their lives for the nation to repel the demons, and those who remained would be mobilized here. Even if the casualties were much higher than anticipated, they would not be able to return empty-handed. For those who managed to make it out alive, the reward would be greater than one could imagine. It was a burden that Noah had to bear as part of his responsibility for making that kind of decision. The focus of the operation had changed. 150,000 troops were immediately mobilized and surrounded the terror of Renvier. Everyone received Noah's orders, and except for the troops holding the defense line, most of them were mobilized. The Aura swordsmen would take the lead and the mages would follow when attacked. The soldiers from other areas would immediately surround the enemy. Noah made his decisions, and the moment Alex revealed himself with a single attack, his troops would bravely surround him and take him down. It was a tactic that required sacrifices. Noah wanted to produce maximum results with minimum damage, but before that, he sent a small square to inspect Renvier's terror. He wanted to know what happened to the previous troops that entered there, but unfortunately, even after an hour, the 3,000-man squad did not return. A bright light shone as the Aura swordsmen lit up the path, and the swords shone due to the manipulation of the aura, and anyone who entered its radius would be exposed due to the bright fragments of light covering them. Being the torchman of the group, they would not be able to exert their full strength, and on top of that, due to maintaining the aura, their mana would begin to decrease, but they had to take this risk. They had a strong desire to win and did not run away, even if they became bait to kill the enemy. With fair size, they scanned for the enemy. "There's no enemy here. Let's search there," the Aura Knight muttered as he took the lead. The soldier behind him ran over with a confident face. When they couldn't find any enemies for a long time, the fear in their hearts subsided and the speed of their search increased greatly. As they picked up the pace and found no one in their way, they forgot their initial goals of scouting and headed deeper inside. At that moment, a faint ripple occurred as they entered a pool of water. "Is there a small stream?" the Aura Knight muttered and lowered his sword, only to find a small stream of blood flowing beneath them. As everyone had the blood of enemies on their clothes, they didn't smell the blood flowing beneath because they were simply used to that smell. For a moment, he was taken aback, and at that moment the space around him fluctuated, and something shot at him with unimaginable blood. Slash. Knight Aura's eyes widened as he saw blood flowing uncontrollably, and he fell to the ground. Soon, the Kinley soldiers who weren't inside appeared out of nowhere like an illusion and lured them over once. "Kill them immediately. Don't let them alert the others." Everyone heard a hoarse voice and saw a man the size of a bull, who with great speed was decapitating the enemies. He spoke in a fierce tone as veins bulged out from his neck. The veins on his arms bulged as he didn't even let the enemies swing their swords. He dodged the attacks skillfully, even with such a huge body that it shocked the Arkham soldiers, and as soon as they missed, his axe shattered them. When the Kinley soldiers first showed Max hunting in this place, they couldn't believe that it was Max who wreaked havoc every time he swung his axe and could hold his own. Max was born with a strong physique and great strength, and when he started training, all he did was swing his axe at the enemies. He didn't have a proper technique and wasted a lot of moves. At first, Alex let it grow as usual, but once Alex reached the rank of master, Alex took the reins into his hands. Alex had already expected the fight to turn out like this on the mountain, so he had specially ordered Max to fight carefully and kill the prey as quietly as possible. Max stared at the corpse and recalled the scene where everyone was discussing what to do and how to do their best to help their lord. Even though they knew they were in a difficult situation where their life was in danger, they never wavered and kept their faith in Alex. Before they left the camp, they all asked only one thing. "What are your orders and what should we do?" War was not something Alex could handle alone. It was a good plan to use the forested terrain and darkness to deal with the enemy, but at the end of the day, except for Alex's men, the number of soldiers capable of fighting in this terrain was 2,500 to 3,000. Except for them, everyone else was just lazy soldiers who stayed at the defensive lines and were out of contact. At this, Alex took out the maps and explained. "The Arkhams would surely detect us or follow the soldiers from the third line of defense to here. Ribby and I would take them on alone and lure them in. They might underestimate us and send forces after us. At that time, we will use the traps we have set to wipe out as much as we can. The Arkhams would see me as a thorn in their side and see a massive amount of force chasing me and trying to gain an overwhelming advantage. I will prolong the battle and you all will start picking them off. And as soon as the next day begins, while they are busy here, I will begin my work. Tap. 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 Ian's sword flashed as he was so fast that he wasn't even visible to the enemy soldiers. Several HUDs flew one after another through the air. And although blood continued to gush out like a fountain from their bodies, Ian didn't stop. At that moment, he decided to attack by surprise. He decided to seize the opportunity and push as hard as he could. Behind him were his men who had trained with him and had been through a lot. Although their skills were still lacking, they were stronger than Arkham's soldiers. Everyone counterattack. Arkham replied as the mage took control and attacked them. Ian and his men climbed trees in one go and jumped from tree to tree and avoided all the attacks of the mages on the ground. Growing up the tree, they reached the mage and, taking advantage of the opportunity, pounced on them. Arg. No way. Quack. Kinley's soldiers attacked the opponent's vital point and dealt with it without wasting too much strength. The fight raged on throughout the night. They had even lost count of the soldiers they had killed so far. Alex knew that once he angered them, Arkham would hunt them down like crazy and make mistakes. But before the sun rose, something unexpected happened that surprised even Alex. Chapter 390, A Battle of Strategies 2. Standing on top of the rock, Noah looked ahead with a rotten expression, as if he had just stepped on some kind of shit. All of the squads he had sent to the place disappeared because they were either lost or died inside. Of the two, Noah believed the latter. He clenched his fist and looked ahead with hateful eyes. I can't let that bastard live. Every second that passes, he's becoming a huge threat. It's all my fault. They all died because of my recklessness. I'm useless. General Zhang and General Den fell to their knees and shouted, please don't blame yourself, it's all our fault. We, the subordinates, are incapable of carrying out your orders. General Zhang bowed his head and said, Your Highness, there has been no news of those who have entered the place, so this humble man would like to make a suggestion. Noah nodded and muttered, Speak, we shouldn't send any more soldiers. It's useless. The enemy's tactics are quite lethal, and since they're fighting on terrain where they have a natural advantage, we should either lure them out or wait a little longer. We've killed all the survivors on Kinley, so we can't lure them out. Why don't we wait for the sun to rise and begin the capture? In 2 or 3 hours the sun will be upon us, and the enemies won't be able to take advantage of the darkness. Noah shook his head and sighed. Look, the forest is too dense, and even if the sun rises, the ground will still be gloomy. Plus, there's still a mountain ahead. No matter what, entering it is deadly. If I order all the soldiers to go in and kill them, we might be able to achieve the result, but the loss might be greater than the gain. So what should we do, Your Highness? General Zhang spoke as he looked at Noah with an inexplicable expression. I remember you said that they have the home court advantage, so what if we destroy that advantage? Noah said with a cruel expression. General Zhang gulped and looked on with a confused expression. Destroy their home? But how? General Den asked with a confused expression. Noah nodded and said, Order the troops to burn down the forest. We'll burn everything down and trap them inside. Unable to bear the heat, they either got stuck on the mountain or had to get out. General Zhang's expression brightened upon hearing Noah's expression. Counterattacking others like that, he believed that only this man could think like this. Burning down the entire Renvier terror forest would not only render the other side immobile, but they would also suffocate and lose their tempers due to all the smoke and dust. But Your Highness, what about our people in sight and what about their corpses? Send a signal so that everyone still alive can return. And about the corpse, we can't do anything. Noah shook his head and walked away. Noah's order was carried out within minutes. First they cleared the area near them so that they wouldn't be the ones to suffer, after which they carved some walls out of rocks to prevent the fire from spreading to the other side. The mages then took over and cast their spells. The gunshots soared into the sky. 1, 2, 4, 8. The number of gunshots reached 100 and fell upon the forest. They were ordered to fire their spells as far away as possible so that if there was an enemy within the radius, they could be hit by the attack. Boom. 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 The spells exploded one after another, clearing out the entire mass of green vegetation, and soon a forest fire spread crazily throughout the forest. There was a cracking sound and the entire path was filled with smoke. Everyone gasped as they saw the magnitude and destruction of the fire. The fire was out of their control. Let's see how long the mouse stays in the beak, Noah muttered with a smirk. Deep in the forest, a shadow crossed the space and rushed forward. The shadow soon came upon the man who was staring with a grim expression. The shadow stopped before the man and Raya emerged from it. Her breathing was a mess and her chest was rising and falling and she muttered in panic, "Alex, they've set the entire front of the forest on fire." Alex didn't say anything and sat there silently. Soon, Max and Ian, followed by many, walked out of the forest with grim expressions. Thick black smoke hung like a cloud above them. It wasn't good for them as the smoke would cover the entire desert. It was already an area that gave an indication, and the smoke above it would make it harder for them to breathe. If this continues, they will soon die of suffocation. After a few moments, Alex stood up from the spot. It was at that moment that everyone's heart skipped a beat as a dark mass of blood-red figures materialized around them. Alex's expression was as cold as 1,000 years of ice blocks. His eyes were cold enough to freeze anyone with a single glance. "He's crossing all boundaries and doing everything he can to win this war," Alex muttered. "Listen, clear a patch of land and set the place on fire so it spreads. Both fires would soon extinguish each other. Before that, ask the Earth Mage to form the Earth Mounds and start forming a barricade because as soon as the fire ends, we will have already lost a significant portion of land as well as our advantage," Alex said in a hoarse voice. "Also ask the mages to push the smoke with the wind and clear the sky. Our breathing may be affected due to all this and it may affect our fight. What will we do now? Our initial tactics have been countered now. We cannot use the terrain to our advantage like before. Even if we put out this fire, they will advance and light another one," Raya spoke in a worried tone. Alex looked towards the sun that was slowly rising over the horizon. He has mobilized most of his forces here because he believes that the defense line is secure. Those who are afraid of getting burned should not light the fire in another house. Since he dares to start a fire here, he should prepare to control the fire in his fortress, Alex muttered and his figure rose into the sky. "Raya, do as I do and ask those slackers to start preparing. The situation is getting worse, we'll soon need all the hands we have. Ask them to prepare for a fight. In the meantime, I'll sneak out of this place and bombard a defense line and force him to either take a step back or compromise, which I doubt will happen, but he at least has to think twice before acting." Alex's loud voice was accompanied by a loud sonic boom as he flew through the sky. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 391, Devastation. It was another sunny day, and the Arkham soldiers who had taken up residence at the defense lines were patrolling and guarding the place carefully. They were a little tired from the fighting, but protecting the place was more comfortable than fighting a war filled with heart-wrenching moments. Everything was going as usual, however the relaxed atmosphere changed. The Arkham soldiers, who were at the fort of the defense line, suddenly heard a soft cracking sound. Their expressions hardened and everyone instantly became alert and looked around towards the source of the sound. The sound began to get closer and closer. They felt that this was the sound of the approaching crisis. As it got closer to them, many of them sensed that it was the sound of a shower of lightning. "It seems like a storm is coming. I think it's going to rain heavily," a soldier muttered. "Hey, buddy, I told you before, don't you drink too much in the morning, it's already this late in the morning. Can't you see that the sky is clear and the sun is shining brightly?" The soldier in front of him spoke with a chuckle and stared at the sun that had just risen. The moment he raised his chin, he felt the world turn upside down. This, the words hit his throat as he saw dark, heavy clouds coming towards them. Strong gales began to rise and dust flew forcefully everywhere, making it difficult for them to see ahead. Turbid, heavy clouds appeared out of nowhere. What the hell is going on? How can such a natural disaster appear in an instant? There hasn't been any warning or news about it. The soldiers began to panic at the sight of a natural disaster, but they soon realized that it wasn't a natural disaster as they thought, but rather an artificial disaster created by a human being, and that scared them even more. Suddenly, the dark clouds began to turn red and churned around the place where a human silhouette appeared. They were unable to notice the man due to the dust flying everywhere, but they could feel chills running down their spines just from the man's presence. His existence was dangerous to them. A human capable of manipulating clouds to such an extent that he could mask the entire sky above his head must surely be a high-ranking mage. While many tried to discern the enemy's identity, others immediately reacted. There's an enemy up there. The opponent probably looks like a mage, so prepare for the incoming attack. Orders were heard and issued one after another. Alex, using his partial concealment skill and ability to fly, walked out of the forest undetected. Also, ever since there was a fire, their defense had relaxed a bit and their formation had scattered unlike before when they tried to surround the entire place. Alex found a weak spot and slipped away and ran towards the second defense line at full speed. It was here that he had left before and had now returned to pick up the things he needed to finish. This time, he would not only deal a devastating blow, but he would make sure that no one understood who he had been trying to mess with. Alex's figure floated in the air. His long, unbraided hair fluttered in the air. His hair was still warm from the fresh blood of his enemies. With a bloody figure, he looked like the god of war, and with each gesture of his fingers, the atmosphere of the place began to change. Alex's gaze turned towards the depths of the fort and focused on the man trying to use the mana communication channel. He pointed his finger and a beam of light condensed on it and shot towards the place. Jordan. The small building exploded and was instantly destroyed. There were 4 men inside. 2 of them died while the other 2 lay in a pool of blood crushed by the rubble. Under everyone's frightened gaze, Alex raised his hands and 2 huge magic circles appeared around him. The magic circles were quite large and complex to the point that the mages on the opposite side couldn't identify the spell. Since you started first, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Alex didn't want to get involved in such a head-on battle and wanted to prolong the battle for reinforcements to arrive because once he ran out, his entire squad could be in trouble. But since he was forced to step forward, he would surely make it worth it to let the enemy know that he is someone not to be trifled with. There is no holding back now. Alex wiped away all the sympathy he had and turned his hand and began waving them apart. One of the magic circles glowed crazily, after which a mass of destruction was unleashed. Swish. 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 6 huge typhoons appeared, and after surrounding the entire fort, they danced crazily. All of them were spinning with high-speed winds and throwing out wind blades that descended upon the enemies like the scythe of death. Arg, help me, please save me. The groans of the soldiers could be heard as the typhoons approached and almost touched the walls. The weaker ones were directly swept away by the section force of the typhoon. Take shelter, hide in the building. Don't stay out in the open. The soldiers hid inside the building and squeezed into the buildings and facilities within the fortress. The typhoon grew larger and fiercer and crashed into the hallways. Grrrrrrr. Grr. A screeching sound could be heard as the bricks of the walls broke as the typhoon surged forward, knocking down everything in its path. The typhoons began to lose their momentum, but the recently repaired walls were severely damaged, and the upper flood above the walls collapsed, and the soldiers hiding behind the walls began to fall into the gaps created by 6 typhoons and plunged from a height of 40 meters. What awaited them down there was nothing but a deep sea of despair and suffering. Chapter 392, Devastation 2. Many grabbed onto broken parts of the walls with all their might to hold on, while many others had their hands slip and their grips loosen, becoming trapped in the circular vortex where they turned into mincemeat after being hit by the sharp-edged debris. Only a strong legendary rank could cut through one of their storms after a bitter fight, but since there are none here, Arkham will surely suffer. The mages tried to neutralize the spell, but the force of the wind was too great for them to attack. They couldn't even stand still, so how could they cast spells? Alex realized that the typhoons, after causing great destruction, were now on their last legs. Alex clenched his fist, causing the 2 magic circles in his palms to grow and glow at once. The mana surrounding Alex surged towards him and swirled around him. Retumble, retumble. The Arkham soldiers, who were lying on the ground while breathing heavily, felt their hearts jump out of their bodies as they heard a loud sound. Is he a transcendent ranker, or is he hiding his strength? One of the mages spoke up after noticing Alex's level. If the mana I have is equal to that of a bucket, then the mana he has is akin to that of a pond or even a lake, the mage muttered with eyes filled with disbelief. He was reluctant to believe that a human with so much mana existed while being at the same stage as him. But reality hit him hard. Alex lowered his hands and roared. Lightning punishment. His roar was followed by a sound akin to the roar of the sky. As if angry at the Arkham soldiers, the entire sky exploded and huge bolts of lightning struck down upon them. Purple bolts began to fall and bombarded the entire fort, one after another, which was followed by loud sounds of explosions one after another. Boom. 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 Lightning accompanied by thunderstorms struck down upon the fortress, decimating everything. The process continued for 10 minutes. The dark clouds hiding the sun's rays dispersed, leaving behind broken ruins of the majestic fortress. The walls and castles were completely destroyed, and there were huge pieces of rubble everywhere. Everything that was struck by lightning was destroyed and turned into dust. The fire was spreading wildly, causing a mess. Although the place has great importance to the border, to him now it was of no importance. Since it had already fallen into the hands of the enemy forces, it was better for this place to be destroyed than to be used against them. There were less than 10,000 soldiers stationed due to their countless loss of life. Alex sternly looked at the faces of the survivors, filled with anger, pain, sorrow, and suffering, but more than that was fear. A fear that seemed to be engraved deep within their hearts. The soldiers trembled in fear and prayed in their hearts when they saw Alex's figure staring at them. Some even lost consciousness in fear of the coming crisis. Alex guessed that he had taken down 40% of the soldiers stationed here, and he was now certain of one thing. None of the survivors would dare to face him again. His existence was enough to make them tremble in fear. He nodded in satisfaction after achieving the desired result. It's time for him to go for the next prey. Alex narrowed his eyes, and after taking a look at everything, he moved on to the next target. Leaving the mark of destruction behind, Alex's silhouette disappeared. Near the terre of Renvier, Noah stood with his arms crossed over his chest as he waited for the forest to burn completely. Before him was a spectacular scene of a dense fire burning everything as it moved deeper and deeper. As the fire did its work, they did not sit still. Every time a part of the forest burned, his men were already at work in trying to clear the area filled with ashes, dust, and debris. Their lines had already advanced quite far when Noah noticed something was wrong. The air filled with smoke and dust flying towards the other side seemed to clash with the smoke and dust coming from the opposite direction. Noah watched the phenomenon for a while and narrowed his eyes. Seeing his frown, General Zhang asked, "Is something wrong? Can you see the wind blowing up there? If the opposite side used the magicians to blow away the dust, it wouldn't be like this," Noah said. General Zhang looked at the sky above them with a confused expression. The turbulent air currents seemed to meet each other and form a small whirlpool that rose into the sky. Both seemed to cancel each other out and prevent the air above the forest from being filled with a layer of dense smoke. "There seems to be smoke coming out from the other side, and I'm sure it's not the smoke from the fire set by us," General Zhang muttered. The other side had also lit the fire and let the forest burn and let the other fire spread it and also prevented the fire from spreading further. "Also, even if we clear the area like this, we will soon encounter another fire and won't be able to move forward. The enemies will surely hide in the remains of the fire and attack us," Noah said worriedly. "We need to think of something quickly." Noah calmed down and tried to think of something. His enemy was an excellent strategist like him. He needs to think of a counterattack as soon as possible. Beep. Beep. Noah, who was deep in thought, heard the sound of the communicator and took it out from his waist. "Noah's Ark, here. What's the situation, Your Highness, are we destroyed?" For a moment Noah thought he had heard something wrong and shook his head and asked again. "What did you say?" "Repeat, Your Highness, the fifth line of defense has been destroyed. A man who seemed to be a magician appeared here and attacked us with destructive spells one after another until everything collapsed. He's aiming for the communicator first, but fortunately, we've kept a spare comm hidden by the man who was on patrol and was able to prevent the calamity. The enemy came alone and destroyed everything. The casualties were quite heavy and 60% of the soldiers on the fifth line of defense were wiped out by his destruction spell." Noah's body shook as if he had been struck by lightning. He flinched backwards with a pale expression and dropped the communication device. The soldier's words rang like thunder in his ears. He tried to calm himself down, but his heart was in a mess. With trembling hands he picked up the tool and asked, "Are you sure it was just one man?" "Yes, Your Highness, and he seemed to be at the transcendent rank. We were unable to locate his face properly, but we were able to catch a glimpse of his blood-stained golden hair." Silence. A deathly silence lasted for a moment. With a trembling voice, Noah asked about the other lines of defense. He called the second line of defense but got nothing. He called the third, and to his relief, he was safe. He asked to collect the reports, and within half an hour, he received the report. The first, second, and fifth lines were attacked. The report broke the last straw and patience of Noah's Ark. He was an unyielding man who could turn his disadvantage into an advantage, but this time, it felt like he had kicked an iron plate. But that doesn't mean he would back down now. Fine, fine, you are indeed a worthy opponent, Alex, but that's all. You want to dominate this battle with strength, so now I will let you see absolute power, Noah roared angrily. He didn't want to use this. This was the last of the trump cards hidden in the arsenal. With bloodshot eyes, he looked ahead and spoke. You infiltrated to attack my people behind my back, now I would do the same. Although fighting in a place filled with fire seemed dangerous, it did not cause much damage to high-ranking warriors. The aura user can cover their body with aura to avoid receiving the most serious effects, just like the mages who can use the barrier. The only problem was the smoke that blocked vision and made breathing difficult. But that would only happen when their entire army marched. It was time for him to deploy his trump cards. He had saved them in case Kinley acted on his behalf, but now he wants them to attack and kill the enemy no matter what. He can't let the thorn in his eye continue to grow. If he lets it go now, he'll only lose more men. Even if he had to deploy his tigers to hunt the rabbit, he wouldn't hesitate now. General Den and Sir Hunter, I want you to go through the forest and kill the enemies. Break the limbs of that girl, Raya. I want Alex to see his wife die before his eyes. General Zhang, you and Sir Richard are the only legendary ranks we have now. I want you to stay here and oversee the place and I'll take care of the others. Now clear the way for us, Noah shouted. Yes, Your Highness, yes, Your Highness. The golden armored man named Hunter and General Den released an aura that shot up to mythic rank. The entire place shook and with a stomp, they were shot forward with a loud bang. Chapter 393, Entering the Enemy's Trap. All the defense lines were on high alert. There was a state of panic and unrest in the hearts of the soldiers on the entire defense line. 3 of the 7 defense lines had already been destroyed, and no one knew what would be next. The situation was totally out of control. The horror story had spread everywhere, and in order to have peace of mind, everyone was praying to God that they would not be next on the list. The soldiers of the 7th defense line were already trying to find a way to deal with the damage if they were attacked. The flares were already loaded and all they did now was make the enemy appear. The sky around the 7th defense line began to emit a rumbling sound. He's here, the enemy is here, the guards shouted with a frightened expression and climbed down from the walls and tried to take cover in case a typhoon appeared. The rumbling sound was getting louder and louder, but there was no sign of a storm or dark clouds to phase them. According to the information, the enemy first raised a typhoon and then attacked them with showers of lightning until everything was destroyed. As they searched the sky, suddenly the sky directly above their heads suddenly lit up. Everyone raised their heads and what they witnessed was enough to make their legs go weak. Their eyes widened as they saw a huge mass of fiery rock descending upon them from the sky. Get into position, everyone shoot at the meteorite, try to break it before it falls. Fire the flares. Attack it with everything you've got. The direction of the flare was changed, and 4 flares shot a beam of massive destruction into the sky. Boom, 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 boom. A loud explosion accompanied by gunshots was heard, and the ground beneath the flare cracked due to the opposite reaction of the force. The mages fired their shots and the warriors slashed with their aura-covered swords, but all they did was slow down its descent. Most of the attacks turned into nothing before they could reach it due to the high-density flames. The ones that managed to reach it only gave it a scratch. Only the flare damaged it a little and pieces of rocks broke off and fell on them. Soon, the meteor crashed into the fortress with a loud explosion. The fiery meteor exploded and strong shockwaves accompanied by flames spread all over the place. Sigh. 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 Above the sky, Alex gazed at the scene unfolding below him with an impassive gaze. Due to all the attacks he had received so far, he had already used up 3/5 of his total mana reserves. He had put in a lot of effort. All of the attacks he had cast so far were level 9 spells. It was currently one of the most destructive spells in his arsenal, and if he used up all of his mana, the entire fortress along with the 7th defense might disappear. And he would also end up exhausted and unable to use any spells. I should go back. I've been away for too long. Noah might have already received the news and is planning something to deal with this, Alex muttered, and his figure flew towards Ranvier's terror with incredible speed. The current Alex could fly at a speed of 400 kilometers per hour, and it would probably take him an hour or a little more than that to reach the location. If his calculations were correct, both fires would take half a day to cancel each other out, so he had more than enough time to prepare his next counterattack. He also needed some time to recover and reach his peak. When Alex arrived at Ranvier's terror, He felt strong fluctuations. Alex's eyebrows furrowed and a frown appeared on his face. These fluctuations are quite strong. It seems like Ridaya is fighting someone, but the other side seems to be too strong. The closer Alex got, the more serious his expression became. His eyeball opened wide. Mythic rank. It can't be. Alex opened the mana map and increased its radius, and the information he saw made his face pale as a sheet of paper. 2 mythic rankers were fighting with Ridaya. Alex's entire world turned upside down for a moment and his head went blank. He activated the goddess deception and all of his powers at once. His body began to glow and emit a strong holiness. Strength began to return to his body, and the strong divinity began to make up for his empty mana. In an instant, Alex's speed increased several times over, and his body shot into the sky like a missile. The space around him began to shatter, and loud sonic booms began to appear. The Arkham soldiers had already formed barracks outside the forest and were busy clearing the place. His ears pricked up as he heard the loud sound of shattering and breaking glass coming from afar. They looked towards the direction of the sound and soon saw a small dark dot flying towards them. At first it looked like a small dot, but the speed at which it was flying was terrifying, and it was too late to notice. "Shit. Get out of here, get out of the way," one of the commanders taking over shouted in a panicked tone. Alex didn't spare them any glances and just walked right past them. The sheer force of his speed blew away everything in his path and left cracks in the ground if he was too close to it. The Arkham soldiers that were in Alex's flight line were destroyed outright. Alex located Ridaya and flew over the thick cloud of smoke and saw the devastation around him. A plot of land had been cleared. All this time, he had been praying for Ridaya's safety. It didn't matter if she was injured as he could heal her, he just wanted her to be alive, and when he arrived at the scene, he finally caught a glimpse of Ridaya which made his lips quiver. Her face was drenched in blood and her hair was messy. She seemed to be limping on one leg. Her left hand seemed to be broken and twisted and she looked to be in bad shape. She was still holding the dagger in her right hand and staring intently at the enemy, but soon she sensed Alex's presence and her eyes met his. For a moment, putting everything aside, Ridaya disappeared from Alex's vision. His breathing became unsteady and he panicked a little at the sight of her. Alex thought nothing of it and ran straight towards her without a second thought. He just needed to heal her at once and they could face the enemy together, but Alex, who was approaching Ridaya, suddenly felt his body stiffen like a statue. He tried to move but couldn't. "It seems the mouse is caught in the trap." Alex heard the voice and found Noah standing far away, and beneath his feet, a deep blue magic circle was shining brightly. Chapter 394, Entering the Enemy's Trap 2. Alex tried to move his hands and feet, but it seemed like they were all blocked and he had been forced to turn into a statue. The mana core began to radiate mana, which entered his heart, but as his mana was pushed into the vessels by the heart, it was emptied, or it could be better to say blocked, causing the veins near his chest to bulge, giving him a subtle pain that began to intensify. Alex felt as if his heart was burning. "If this keeps up, my chest will burst and I might kill myself." He tried to use spells, but to his surprise, he couldn't even use them, nor could he manipulate mana. He couldn't even turn his head, so he rolled his eyes trying to see as much as he could and found that he had fallen into the enemy's trap. The space around Alex had been sealed by a series of formations with Noah at the center. With Noah at the center, 20 transcendent rank knights stood on magic circles. Alex was locked in a space that had been devoid of mana, and even if he tried to manipulate his mana within it, he felt dense strings coiled around him that interfered with the mana channel. How's my surprise? Alex narrowed his eyes at the owner of the voice and glared at him. "You've given me many beautiful memories and now it's time to give all of this back to you." Noah spoke with a sneer and stared at Ridaya. Alex looked at the 2 mythic rankers standing far away from Ridaya. His heart ached at the sight of Ridaya's painful condition, and all he wanted to do now was kill the mythic ranker. He didn't know if Noah had mythical ranks or not, and if he did, Alex guessed that Noah would save them as a last resort to use a trump card against Kinley's main forces. Alex's uneasy expression was noticed by everyone, which brought smiles to Noah and everyone's faces. "You're feeling it, aren't you? That sweet despair and pain of seeing your wife being killed before your eyes while you can't do anything," Noah shouted angrily. He still couldn't forget Jack's screaming voice asking from his mind. If Alex could speak, he would want to say, "I'm not going to lie, I'm really scared, but I'm not afraid of her dying. Rather, if she becomes aggressive, you idiot, not only will you die, but my men will die as well." The current situation was scaring him. Just like him, Ridaya was an anomaly. She might be a bigger anomaly than him. Apart from using the power of darkness, if once she is pushed into a near-death situation, her powers would take over, and once she starts a rampage, it will be too heavy for even Alex to bear. Alex didn't know the reason behind this. He tried to ask the goddess and even tried to solve the mystery himself, but always in vain. Alex didn't try to do anything hastily and carefully assessed the situation. He looked for his men, and luckily, they were now far away and seemed to be observing the situation from afar, and Noah seemed to have turned a blind eye. It seems that Rai had asked them to stand down. Alex could sense their unwavering belief in him. Normally they should have rushed to help him, but they all believed in him. They know his strengths and weaknesses as well as his limits. If they were to rush, they would put Alex in a more difficult situation. Alex had taught them to always wait for his orders. So unless Alex called them or they sensed that Alex or Rai were really dying, they wouldn't make the move. They were all biding their time as they waited for his call and tried to recover as much as they could. Alex, who was assessing the situation, was brought out of his thoughts by the quick, shrill voice. "My lord. Please forgive me, it's all my fault. I'm too weak and I'm nothing but a burden." Alex heard Rai's words and wanted to open his lips to reassure her, but he couldn't. He simply looked at Rai helplessly as she slowly tried to exert her strength to escape. Den, one of the mythic ranks, made his move and Rai couldn't react in time. She was punched in the stomach and was thrown 10 meters away, causing her to cough up blood and fall to her knees. Alex's eyes became sunken and dark like a black hole. Alex's blood boiled with anger and he tried to break through the space around him. Noah noticed her struggle and muttered with a chuckle, "It's no use. Cutting mana is just like cutting the root of a tree." But his laughter didn't last long as the space around Alex began to shake. Alex's body seemed to vibrate and the veins all over his body were bulging out due to the extreme strength emanating from his muscles. Alex was finally able to move his lips and softly muttered, "Do you think I'm useless without mana?" Not only had he learned how to use mana, but he had also followed the path of a true warrior. True warriors couldn't store mana in vessels due to various reasons, but that didn't stop them from becoming stronger. They soon discovered that they could damage their body, which would soon be healed by mana, and in doing so, their body would become stronger. Alex had been whipped thousands of times and had his bones broken by Max with a hammer. He had bled gallons of blood as his internal organs were damaged. His body was enough to take on the rank of disciple when he wasn't even awakened, and within the 2 years where he couldn't use spells, he has trained his physical body as much as he could. Crack! 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 Many cracks appeared in space. The transcendent rankers who were trying to maintain the formation felt burned and fell to their knees. Their faces turned pale and the repercussions hit them hard. Noah's expression also turned ugly. "Cockroach," Noah muttered as he gritted his teeth. This was one of his last resorts. Training takes a heavy toll on the body, and if Alex escapes, the ranks of the transcendent would suffer. A little more, Alex could feel that he was close to breaking free from the shackle. Blood dripped from Noah's lips as he too strained himself trying to keep Alex in the enclosed space. "Hunter, do it," Noah ordered. Alex's eyes widened and he raised his right arm. His entire body acted on instinct as the figure walked past him and kicked Alex out with its foot. Kwa. Blood splattered across Alex's lips and he was knocked down like a rag doll. He crashed heavily into the ground and a deep crater formed. He coughed up blood and felt like he had 3 broken ribs on his right side due to the attack. Alex didn't even get up when he saw a foot pressing down on him. Chapter 395, Fighting Against a Mythical Rank. Alex rolled and twisted his body to the side to avoid the attack, but Hunter crashed into the ground beside him with a great momentum. Bang! The ground collapsed and the shockwave sent him flying. Alex activated all the buffs in his arsenal at once as he stabilized himself. He used all 30 stat points, of which he put 10 into agility, 9 into magic, and 11 into strength. Alex stood up after sliding across the ground for a stretch. Only when he stood up did he see Hunter already appearing in front of him and throwing a punch at him. Alex crossed his arms and braced himself for the impact. Bang! The force of the coercion sent Alex back, but unlike the previous time, he wasn't sent flying. To Hunter's surprise, Alex was pushed 15 meters away. After Alex's body came to a stop, dark drag marks were left beneath him as he tried to stay deeply rooted to the ground. "I'm honestly surprised you were able to take the hit without taking much damage," Hunter said with a strange look. "Your body seems to be quite sturdy." Hunter felt as if he had hide a sturdy metal instead of a human. Alex raised his eyebrows, and as he lowered his hand he realized that the place where the bones had been hit was broken, and he was unable to put it back into the correct position before his blessings yielded, which developed a sharp, tearing end of the bone that pierced his skin. Seeing that Alex was a tough nut to crack, Hunter took out a hammer from his stored ring. Since all of his men were safe, Alex's fears lessened a little and he took out his sword. With his stats, he can fight against a peak legendary rank character equally, but he wasn't confident against an experienced mythic rank character. It would already be enough if he could protect himself, but he didn't want to be someone who would stay on the defensive end. Alex took out his sword from his storage ring and immediately closed the distance as Hunter's right hand pulled the huge hammer back. However, before his right hand moved towards Alex, Alex quickly noticed the left hand and slashed towards it. However, just before the sword cut into Hunter's arm, Alex felt a sense of terror as he noticed that every muscle in Hunter's body was tense. The right side of his body was twisted into a curved shape and was drawing out power. Alex quickly realized what was going to happen if he kept pushing forward. He quickly stopped his movements and retreated as quickly as possible. Too late, Hunter muttered and swung the massive hammer. Boom! Crash! A deafening roar was heard and the ground cracked as a strong pressure was released. Alex was hit and sent flying to the side. Alex groaned and slashed with his sword as he took the blow. Hunter simply raised his hammer to block it. The attack didn't even push him back. Then Hunter moved and threw a punch with his massive hammer. Alex felt an aura of destruction approaching him. It was so strong that Alex felt that if he was hit, he would be in trouble. It was quite dangerous, and so far Alex had only felt this kind of danger when he had fought 2 years ago. But at the same time, it felt a little different, because he had grown up as well. Bang! Hunter's eyes widened as he noticed something unbelievable. Alex bent his back and as his hands touched the ground, his feet hit the bottom of the hammer to propel his body out of the radius of the attack. The sound of bones cracking could be heard, but after channeling all of his strength, Alex managed to deflect the hammer's trajectory. The bones in Alex's feet cracked but they healed instantly, and Alex pushed his hand out to propel himself towards Hunter. The hammer was very heavy and each arc extended quite a bit, delaying the recovery of weapons. Alex cut off the extended arm holding the weapon. As long as he could get rid of it, the pressure on him would greatly decrease. Alex with a full swing slashed his sword, but Hunter released the hammer on his right arm, which moved back in the circle and caught it on his left arm and used the momentum of the hammer to immediately swing it around and put the hammerhead in the way. Spike! The ground cracked and a strong shockwave spread around them. For a moment Hunter had to use all his strength to stop himself from being pushed back. Clanking! Emitting a metallic spark, they both separated. Although the other side only defended his attack, Alex felt as if he had cut a bell, which transferred all the momentum to him and made his hand shake and go numb. When Hunter noticed Alex stopping his attack, he followed the movement of the hammer and put more strength into it, pulling it back to attack Alex. Bang! Alex kicked the side of the hammer again, breaking his bones. The wounds were generated rather quickly. His bones healed as soon as they were broken and crushed. And in that process, they also became stronger and firmer, strengthening his internal organs. Bang! 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 Hunter increased his speed, and Alex dodged the blows similarly. The hammer fell to the ground next to him, shaking the entire place. Alex's mind was going haywire. He was now relying mostly on his instinct to react, but that should be the last thing a warrior should do, as it means one was in a severely disadvantaged situation. I can only deflect the attack because it's a hammer, but if he pulls out another weapon, I'll be in trouble. His entire fighting style counters with weapons. If I had more strength, I could take him on with an axe or a great sword and disarm him. Alex went into suicide mode and tried to deflect the hammer at the cost of breaking his bones and tried to attack him in the follow-up, but being an experienced fighter, Hunter was able to spin his hammer using the momentum of the curve and counterattack Alex. Chapter 396, it's time for the second round. The fight had already been going on for about 30 minutes. The shockwaves and strong winds emanating from the battle were accompanied by the sound of bones breaking on Alex's body. Alex was already in bad shape before coming here, and fighting with a mythical rank was already taking a toll on her body. She fought with an unnatural style without taking care of her body. Meanwhile, the other mythical rank was keeping Raya at bay. It wasn't a fight, but rather a simple exchange. Although Raya attacked her all night, the other side mocked her. The enemy didn't kill her, but left her with serious injuries. Her injuries were quite severe and she was drenched in blood. Rather than fighting, it seemed like the enemy was just playing around. If Den had wanted to, he could have already gone to kill her, but his orders were to injure her and make her suffer in pain. Ria's face was already pale as a sheet of paper due to blood loss. Her body was already on the verge of collapse. In front of her, Den remained without attacking. Ria wanted to strike her down, but her body wouldn't listen to her. "Can't you just die now?" Ria coldly stared at the speaker. Noah ignored her gaze and spoke indifferently. "I can already see him suffering after seeing your pathetic condition. His heart and mind already seem to be in disarray. And he won't last long either. I can feel a strong divinity radiating from him, but it seems like the effect would soon wear off and then his defeat would be in my hands. I will break all of his limbs, knock out all of his teeth, and make him witness the brutal scene of his men being killed and tortured before his eyes." Ria frowned upon hearing his words. Noah spoke with a ruthless expression, and noticing Ria's confusion, he muttered, "Did you think I didn't know that your henchmen are on standby in the back? Once we're done with you two, we'll deal with them." "You dare!" Ria shouted in a cold voice. Although her condition was bad, her eyes still retained their sharpness and glinted dangerously. "We'll see who has the last laugh," Ria said with a snort. She knew that Alex might have thought of a way out of this situation. He might look like trouble, but she was sure that Alex wasn't. Yes, he was shocked to see her in such a state, but he didn't feel completely heartbroken or lose his composure. And the truth was that he wasn't wrong in any way. Hunter stared at the man who was breathing deeply. He didn't know why this guy had strong blessings and divinity, but it was quite annoying. The fight left a bad taste in his mouth. He felt like a cat chasing mice that were constantly slipping out of his hands. No matter how badly Alex was injured, he healed instantly, but now that the effect had worn off, Hunter no longer felt any threat from him. Furthermore, the bones that had been broken had not been aligned before being fixed, so it had affected his movements. Alex was on his knees and coughing loudly. His throat was dry and his mind still hurt. He felt like he was coming back to life after dying. "It's over, Alex," Hunter muttered and raised his hammer to deal the finishing blow. "You deserve my respect. Even if you're only at the peak rank of Transcendent, you were able to tire me out and manage to scratch me, but that's all. In the end, you're nothing but history." He swung his hammer at Alex, attempting to break his entire body and crush him into pulp. Alex raised his head with a smirk and saw the incoming hammer casting a shadow over his body. His left arm glowed with a fiery aura, and he clenched his hand, which contained a small orb of fire. Clenching the ball, he pushed it towards the hammerhead with a giggle. "Are you sure about that?" Hunter's sense screamed in terror. He wanted to pull out his hammer and step back, but it was too late. Boom! Hunter felt a powerful energy hit his hammer, which detonated it into pieces, and the entire place erupted with a loud explosion. Hunter's body was hit and thrown around like a rag doll to everyone's shocked expression. The spot where he stood was cracked, and a man with his left arm missing from the shoulder walked out with a crazy grin. Blood flowed like a river from his shoulder, and with a crooked smile, he muttered, "Shall I ask you one more time, are you sure about that, Kuwak?" Hunter spat out blood as he felt like his internal organs had been crushed by the blow. Noah was slightly shocked, but quickly calmed down and muttered, "You sacrificed your arm just for this? Really pathetic." Noah spat upon seeing the horrifying scene. There was no expression of pain on Alex's face, rather he looked like a person who had lost his mind, causing Noah to believe that Alex no longer posed any threat. Alex raised his eyebrows as he silently looked at everyone. 20 transcendent ranks and 2 mythic ranks. "It's time to bring out the second trump card." Alex closed his eyes and muttered. "Restore." A pillar of light erupted from the spot where Alex was standing. Gales erupted from the spot as the strong pillar of light hid him from the other side. "What's going on?" Noah asked in surprise. They had just seen the power weaken, but suddenly, the power soared again. Noah feels the divinity and blessing once again and curses, Why the hell do you have so much divinity and blessings? What have you done to achieve this? If only those goddesses had blessed my nation like that," Noah said as he gritted his teeth. And it was then, under everyone's stunned gaze, that a thick pool of blood followed by a mass of flesh writhed on Alex's left side. The chunk of flesh tore itself loose from Alex's shoulder and began to move. Crack! 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 Bone-tingling jolts emanated from all over Alex's body. Bones began to shift within Alex, and bones that were out of position and sticking out at a wide angle were repositioning themselves. It took a moment for everyone to realize what was happening, and Noah immediately ordered, "Attack him, everyone, don't let him recover." Den, who was standing near Ria, immediately fired towards Alex, followed by Hunter. Because Hunter was injured, Den arrived at the scene first and raised his gun to strike Alex. However, when he cut Alex, he discovered that it was a copy made of Mana that disappeared after being cut. Raya, who was looking at the scene with a surprised expression, suddenly felt warm hands on her shoulder and a strong current ran through her body, healing her wounds and healing her at an astonishing rate. Alex's cold eyes looked at everyone and in a rough voice he declared, "It's time for round 2. Chapter 397, Second Round. All the wounds on Raya's body instantly disappeared and her broken and twisted left arm was also healed at an astonishing rate. Den and Hunter quickly approached Noah, followed by all the Transcendent rank knights. Alex and Raya stared at the enemies with cold gazes. A sound of shuffling was heard, and soon everyone saw a large number of soldiers surrounding the place. Alex looked at the soldiers with a confused expression and shouted, "What are you all doing? Back off now," Alex ordered, but his orders fell on deaf ears. Ian bowed his head and said, "Your Highness, please let us fight with you. We may be useless against the mythic rank, but we will make sure to defeat the others." "Yes." Alex left them to us. The soldiers in front retreated and Johnson left the place. "We have 11 Transcendent Knights on our side. We can defeat them," Johnson muttered, and behind him, the other Transcendent Knight stood. Alex knew about Barak and 2 others, but the rest were new faces to him. Even with all this, Alex wasn't confident of defeating the other side. He knew that his opponent wanted to take him down and kill him slowly and steadily. Alex used that opportunity to tire Hunter out while Raya tried to take down Den as much as possible. If Noah had known about the restoration, he would have made sure to kill Alex from the start, but there was no point in crying over spilled milk now. Still, Alex's recovery to the top had upset Noah's mind. Noah was mortified to see that Alex, who was on the verge of death, was now once again full of life and vitality. All of his injuries had recovered along with his lost mana, and in his current state, he was more intimidating compared to before. Beads of sweat dripped from Noah's forehead. "Can you take him down?" Noah wiped his sweat and asked. "Even though I'm injured, he's still nothing," Hunter muttered. "We need to take care of the girl first and then we can both defeat him," Den muttered. Alex and Raya stood in front waiting on the other side. "Shut up." For a moment, a deathly silence reigned. There was calm before the storm. Then, bang! 4 small cracks appeared on the surface. 4 silhouettes disappeared from everyone's sight, followed by loud explosions all over the place. It was a sign of war, and under the command of Ian, Max, and Johnson, each of them began their charge. While Alex charged forward with incredible speed, causing Hunter to tense up a little. Hunter had taken out another hammer, and as Alex entered its range, his hammer shot towards Alex with all its speed. The hammer strike was incredibly fast and had a great amount of momentum. Alex wasn't fast or strong enough to stop the strike, but that didn't mean he was helpless. Instead of attacking, Alex held his sword with both hands as he aimed directly at Hunter. His sword was exuding a sharp aura and was like a flame, while Alex's body was covered in a dense crimson aura that was enough to suffocate anyone who came close to him. Bang! As if he had crashed into a wall, the great momentum generated by Hunter was halted as his hammer strike was interrupted by a thick invisible wall. While being struck and thrown all around, Alex watched Hunter's movements and analyzed each one carefully. He would rush straight towards the enemy, and after the enemy was within a distance of 5 meters, he would begin his attack. The harder the hammer strikes, the greater power it generates. But Alex used his aura to constrict a barrier in a 3-meter radius, where Hunter's body had just completed half a strike, and before he could advance any further, he crashed into an invisible wall that threw him away. It was like a javelin thrower who would run from a great distance and after gaining the desired momentum, start throwing it, but if he was interrupted in the middle by placing an invisible glass slab, all his momentum would bounce back to him and he would be thrown back. Hunter was hit by X's power, which not only crashed into him but was also amplified due to Alex's interference. Hunter's figure was projected 20 meters away. Alex's hands also shook due to the impact, and his feet shook along with the space around him due to the powerful force. Alex steadied himself and, taking a step forward, angled his sword to strike Hunter. Every time Hunter blocks or parries the attack, the huge hammer blocks his vision for a second or less, allowing the enemy to alter the course of the attack, although Hunter manages to change the opponent's attacks at the last moment. Alex was exactly for this kind of opening. Hunter tried to retract his hammer to block the attack, but Alex spun his sword and slid a little, bending his body and hitting one of Hunter's arms with the handle of his sword, causing the hammer to fly back with one hand holding it. Hunter's hammer extended too far, essentially throwing him off balance, and by placing the hammer far away he also moved his center of mass away, causing Hunter to stagger a bit. Alex moved closer to Hunter, causing the other side to panic and tried to pull his hammer back despite cramping due to the unexpected pull. At that moment, Alex's sword was on Hunter, and with the step he had taken, his stance was perfect for a devastating downward strike. Alex put all his strength into it and slashed. Hunter spun the hammer around by hitting the bottom end of the handle, causing it to spin upwards, and then Alex's sword struck downwards at the tip of the hammer. Sparks flew and the end of the hammer was cut off, with the tip of Alex's sword grazing Hunter's torso, creating a small cut. Alex gritted his teeth due to frustration at missing the chance to land a destructive blow. As Hunter backed up into the attack stance. Of course, mythic rank cannot be underestimated. If he hadn't reacted fast enough, I would have given him a bloody cut from his thigh to his feet, making him lose the ability to use that right foot. While Alex was busy with Hunter, he made sure to keep an eye on Ritaya. Alex looked at Ritaya, who was fighting Den. Ritaya's skills weren't enough to match her with a mythic rank. Alex was about to attack Hunter when a spell flew towards him. Boom. Alex's feet were dragged back a few steps, but he blocked the attack. He saw Noah preparing spells and attacking him, and soon many thick vines sprouted from the ground and shot towards him. Hunter, attack him now. I'll catch him now, shit. Did I have to fight 2 against 1 now? Alex muttered as he tried to dodge the vines that came after him like whips. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 398, On the Verge of Death. The ground rumbled and cracked. Shockwaves surged one after another. Fierce clashes occurred one after another. Manas whirled in the air and auras clashed with each other. Rhodey manifested his aura and swung his sword towards the night guard in the front of the enemy formation. He believed that his attack would finish off the enemy. What? Contrary to his expectation, Kinley's knight blocked the attack. The auras clashed with each other, and Rhodey felt dizzy for a moment due to the loud clash. His expression turned pale because, contrary to his expectations, he was pushed back. The opponent was also at a transcendent rank like him, but he seemed to be overwhelmed. Ian faced Rhodey and injured him with his swift attack. Johnson took 2 with him. Although Max was at the epic rank, with the help of his squad he was able to deal with a transcendent rank. As the fierce battle against Alex and Noah's men raged on the other side of the battlefield, the scenery changed, and as he drew mana from his body, Noah moved like a mountain beast charging towards his target. Alex cut through the whips of the vines charging towards him and saw Hunter approaching him. He pulled back his sword and stabbed Hunter. A strong blast of pressure shot towards Hunter, who narrowly avoided it. Alex noticed Noah appearing near him and mana churned around him. Infinite, a gurgling sound echoed through the air followed by a loud boom. Flames from Noah's hands shot out in all directions and surrounded Alex. Buzz! Buzz! The heat was quite intense and strong enough to melt skin upon contact with it. Alex turned around and covered himself with a barrier which the strong flames fell heavily upon. Once the flames died down, Alex lunged at Noah, who was quite close. Noah's eyes flashed with danger and his body glowed due to a spell. Noah sped backwards so Alex's attack narrowly missed him. The ground cracked and many towers rose from it, attacking Alex, in large-sized tree trunks that possessed the power to destroy the human body immediately tried to envelop him. Alex raised his hand and struck down the towers with lightning. His sword caught fire and burned as Alex raised his mana and cut down the tree trunks that attacked him once. It was then another powerful force that struck him. Spike. An explosive aura erupted and Alex was sent flying backwards. Alex saw Hunter's aura increase and it was quite intense. He seemed to be angry for some reason. Alex raised his aura, causing the entire area to tremble. Alex and Hunter fought each other. The strong and rapid combined attacks kept falling on top of each other, creating strong gusts and shockwaves one after another. Noah tried to seize the opportunity and cast a spell at Alex. A strong wind blew and a large arc wind sword appeared attacking Alex as he parried Hunter's attacks. Alex instinctively threw himself away and immediately raised his hands to block Hunter's attack as he rushed towards him. Spike. Alex's hands shook and his body shook due to the violent blow. Noah and Hunter coordinated quite well to deal with Alex. He thought that no matter how much Alex struggled and crawled, he wouldn't be able to withstand the pincer attacks from both of them. The only thing that worried Noah was the full regeneration that Alex had shown before him. To prevent that from happening, he just needs to cut off Alex's head, as he was certain that he can't regenerate. Alex's head was spinning extremely as his mind and body were on full alert. Repulsive energy surged from within due to the opponent's relentless and unrelenting attack. Alex spat out blood and focused on Hunter, who was rushing towards him. Hunter didn't give Alex any time to rest and breathe and pushed him fiercely. Ow. Ow. Tang. 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 As the auras collided, a loud clash ran through the entire area. As the two collided, Alex felt mana pouring in again and sensed the incoming attack. Blades of strong wind passed by him and blood splattered on his face, but he was still able to block the attack to avoid causing any more damage to him. Alex gritted his teeth and the mana within him was boiling strongly. The mana erupted in all directions like the powerful explosion of an active volcano, manifesting a strong killing intent aimed at Hunter. Swish. 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 The killing intent was too strong for even Hunter to bear, and he froze for a moment. A loud blow tore through the air, and he raised his sword and aroused an aura with all his might to defend himself. Alex focused all of his aura on the sword and kicked the ground to propel his body forward. Noah's eyes widened as he saw Alex's strength skyrocket, and he quickly cast spells to stop him. Alex simply waved his hand and Noah was hit with a strong mass of condensed air and was thrown back after spitting out blood. Alex gritted his bloody teeth and swung his sword at Hunter. He had to connect the blow, otherwise he might really lose. Alex, who was about to bring down his sword, suddenly felt time slow down for a moment and his heart started beating wildly. He was scared for a moment as he felt death approaching and all his senses screamed. Alex twisted his body and tried to dodge something he couldn't see but could feel, and sure enough, an instant later, something flew past Alex and made a hole in his chest, but luckily due to Alex's instinct, the attack didn't reach his heart. Alex coughed up blood and fell to the ground under the astonished gaze of Hunter and Noah and heard a mocking voice. "I can't believe you were able to react to that." It was a voice that carried with it a powerful momentum that stopped everything that was happening on the battlefield. Chapter 399, The Awakening of the Shadow Queen. Somewhere on the battlefield, Max with a huge axe faced another who had a similar physique to him. He also fought with a giant axe like him and was at the early transcendent rank. Max, who was at the peak epic rank, faced him. Click, click, clink, clink. Thunderous tremors rang out. Shockwaves radiated out, sweeping away dust and debris. Metal sparks arose as two huge axes rubbed against each other. Bang! Shattering the ground, Max launched himself towards his arch-enemy Bison, who swung his axe. Scream! Max's entire body trembled and his muscles tensed as he collided head-on. Bison tightly gripped his axe to exert more strength as he tried to stay on the ground so as not to be pushed back. "What the hell are you eating, monster? How did you have so much strength?" Bison screamed in Max's face. Max didn't respond but roared as he pressed his feet hard into the ground, causing them to creak radially. Bison and Max seemed to be evenly matched in every confrontation. Both of them separated as neither of them could overpower the other. Bison still had the advantage of speed, so he attempted to overtake Max. If it was the previous Max, he would pour all his power into his attack, but the current him had several experiences until now. And then Max swung his axe and grabbed Bison's left hand while pulling him with all his might. Bison lost his balance and Max quickly came behind him and jumped on him while putting his legs around his torso and his arms around his head. Kurg! Bison squealed like a pig as Max tried to break his skull, but before he could do so, Bison struck Max with his elbow. Explosion! Explosion! Max's ribs were broken due to the repeated attack, but he still didn't let go. With bloody lips, he screamed. Kill him! Previously, due to the fight, his men were either destroyed or injured, so he ordered them to keep a certain distance, but since he had pinned down his enemy, he could call for help from his men. However, before his men could step forward to help, their bodies froze as an overwhelming force fell upon them. Except for the sound of the rapidly blowing wind, any other noise ceased to exist. All the actions happening on the battlefield instantly stopped when the unknown voice was heard. And then, they heard someone's voice and looked towards Alex, who was on the ground with his chest pierced on his left. Dead silence. Everyone was shocked to the core for different reasons. While Noah and Hunter were in shock, wondering what was going on, Ribeye was shocked to see Alex's figure falling to the ground with a huge hole on the left side of his chest. And likewise, everyone in the place was stunned and their bodies were stiff like statues. Johnson, Ian, and Max along with all of Alex's men stopped their fight. The enemies could have attacked and killed them, but none of them dared to raise their weapons. They were in a state similar to Kinley's soldiers. They all stood paralyzed. Their sixth sense seemed to be a warning for them not to move, otherwise they would die at the hands of an unknown enemy. Furthermore, the current situation seemed to have made their minds go blank. Riaya didn't care about Den, who was in front of her, and like a fast lightning bolt, his figure darted towards Alex. Alex! After a brief moment, a loud scream was heard as Riaya approached Alex in an instant and held him in her arms. Alex coughed out drops of black blood that seemed to carry pieces of his internal organs that passed through his nasal passage, causing him to slightly suffocate. The situation was quite ideal for Noah and Hunter to act. They should be glad to see the enemy's situation. They could use this opportunity to kill them, but they couldn't. There was no joy or happiness on their faces, rather they were all alarmed. Noah and Hunter looked around to find the source of the voice that had such momentum, but they couldn't locate the enemy. Alex pressed the hole in his chest to block the flow of blood as the hole began to heal and close slowly and steadily. His strong body, accompanied by the 5 elements breathing technique, provided him with an incredible physique and recovery rate, so he was still alive, otherwise any other boy would already be close to death. The restore spell took away a large portion of his divinity and blessings, so the advantages had been reduced, but it was still there, providing him with additional support. He was able to avoid a killing blow, otherwise it would be instant death, and since he couldn't use the restoration spell for a few days, it would be the end for him. Alex gritted his teeth and raised his chin as Riaya held him with a trembling hand. You. Why did you attack me? No, why are you here? Do people of your level have so much free time? And how can a Holy Realm powerhouse stoop so low? You can see me, huh? Funny. The space above them distorted, and under everyone's frightened gaze, a humanoid figure appeared. His figure looked human-like, but his teeth were sharp, and his eyes were blood red, and the ridge of his nose was flat and looked rather unnatural. Alex used his eyes of truth and noticed that he was a creature of darkness and was wearing human skin clothing. But from within, his figure didn't look like those ugly creatures of darkness, rather he looked more like a vampire than a human. Alex was shocked to see the man's presence. More than their appearance, Alex's heart skipped a beat upon seeing their power levels. Intermediate Saint Realm, it was at a level close to the top level of power in the world. Seeing Alex's hateful gaze, the man muttered, "Kid, we don't have any personal enmity, yet I still have to kill you and complete my task. Are you an assassin?" Riaya asked with a frightened look. "Funny, don't compare me to those greedy scums who do anything for money. I belong to a noble group that had great goals. I came here for 2 things. First, kill this guy," the man muttered as he pointed at Alex. "And the second is to kill Noah Ark and eliminate everyone, regardless of whether they belong to Arkham or Kinley, as it wouldn't be like me leaving them alive." "What?" This time the voice came from Noah as he stared at the man with a blank look. His mind went blank as soon as he heard the man's words. There were a much smaller number of soldiers in Kinley, so even if they died, they wouldn't suffer such a loss. But Arkham would suffer greatly if all of them died here. And what would happen to his people who are waiting with hope for his arrival? His father and nation are waiting for good news. So he can't die here. Attacking us is like breaking the treaty. Will you be able to bear the repercussions? Alex asked in an intimidating voice. He knew that asking such a naive question was pointless, but he needed to buy some time to think of something. His mind was working at full speed looking for plausible scenarios and ways out. "We don't care about that treaty, boy. I don't know what it means, but I assume it belongs to a secret organization, Sir Azores," Alex muttered. The man's expression distorted as he heard his name in Alex's mouth. "How did you know my name? Will you forgive me if I tell you?" "No, but at least I'll give you a painless death." "Then go to hell," Alex shouted and stood up. The bones in his ribs rattled as he stood up, and the hole healed over, leaving a scar. "You're good at making me angry," Azores shouted and waved his hand. A beam of light shot towards Alex. Alex waved both his hands, raised his sword and stood in front of Riaya to protect her. Before him appeared a golden barrier which was struck by lightning. Boom! The barrier shattered into pieces and Alex crashed into it. Riaya's eyes widened and she sped up to catch Alex's flying body. Azor smiled and his figure disappeared, and he appeared before Riaya and kicked her. Riaya's body shot out like a cannon and crashed into the distant trees one after another. Alex, after rolling on the ground like a ball, tried to get up but Azores kicked him into the sky. And then he was kicked and fell to the ground like a heavy meteorite. Then Azores appeared in the crater and tried to attack Alex but found no one. The Azores frowned and then saw a huge fireball above their head. Alex looked at Noah and his mythical rank and shouted, "Don't fall asleep. After me, it'll be your number, so let's team up to defeat him." Alex shouted and threw the fireball. Useless. Azores sneered and pulling his arms out, threw a casual punch. Boom. The ball that was coming down towards him bursts into pieces and Alex receives a strong pressure that makes him vomit blood. Boom. Azores was attacked by Noah's spell and as a cloud of dust rose, he saw a huge hammer above his head. He raised his hand and slammed the hammer down. Crack. Crack. The hammer shook and shattered as Hunter was pushed back. "How is this possible?" Hunter shouted as he was sent flying back with a single touch. Azores locked onto Alex and a purple ball of dense energy appeared above his hand. Die. The ball was launched towards Alex. It exuded a dense energy of destruction. Alex gathered his mana to teleport away, however at that moment, Raya appeared before him. Dense mana erupted from her body, causing Alex's eyes to widen. Swish. Raya slashed her dagger and the dense ball that flew towards Alex was swept away by the slash. Alex looked at Raya with a bewildered expression. He was afraid of what was to come and at the same time, he was relieved to see Raya awaken her power after seeing him being beaten to death. His plan seemed to work, but once Raya awakened her true self, even Alex didn't know what would happen in the end. Raya's hair fluttered and a dark purple mana erupted and enveloped her completely. Her eyes turned purple and above a purple aura, a dark mass of energy radiated from her. "With me here, no one touches him." As Alex stared at Raya, he finally caught a glimpse of the true Queen of Shadows. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.